Welcome to Election Night 2013, the city preliminary election here in the City of Champions. I'm joined with Ron Van Dam, and I'll be explaining all the other hosts and guests and everybody later. Ron, you have to do a quick bit of business at the top of the hour?
We do. It is the top of the hour. It's 8 o'clock. You're listening to WXBR 1460 live election coverage,
along with BCA media partners throughout this campaign so far. So we are here this evening, tonight, to get you election results for the mayor's race, the councillor-at-large race, and there are 2 ward races, one in Ward 5 for City Council and one in Ward 7. There are 3 candidates in each of Ward 5 and Ward 7, and believe it or not, as we all know, there are 15 candidates for councillor-at-large and 4 candidates for mayor. Ron, you and I have been side by side. We did 4 debates. Anything you want to add at the moment?
I'm glad that part of it's over, and then we can move on to the evening and see what the results are finally this evening. Okay,
and joining me on set, a couple of folks here. I'm not sure which, we're just sitting down in the chair, so we are live. Live television is fun, folks. We have on camera, we have Tom Minicello, who is a member of the Brockton School Committee, member of this board of directors, vice chair, and he is unopposed, just so you all know. He happens to be a Republican, but this is a nonpartisan election. Tom, what are you hearing out there? You know the pulse, especially in Ward 1.
Well, as you know, Ward 1's a very busy precinct, but the numbers tonight so far aren't as large as they would be for the actual election. There's a lot of, candidates. People basically were asking me several times, who certain people are, what they stand for. There's a lot of interest, naturally, because we have some openings. Some of our incumbents who are in studio tonight, aren't running, so that adds to the process, and people feel that there's an opportunity to perhaps get elected to that seat. So it's going to be interesting, but I think that you and Ron, provided a service with respect to trying to get people to be familiar with the candidates running and what they stand for. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, I think that the people who were out there working the hardest naturally are going to have a better opportunity to win tonight, and knocking on doors and getting literature out and getting the word out, either through radio, cable, debates. That's what it takes to win an election. And I think the people in Brockton, are a smart voting bloc and are going to go with who they feel confident with and worked hard.
We'll talk some turnout and some numbers in a little bit. We also have joining with us, we have one of our state representatives from the Brockton delegation. We have our own Mike Brady. Mike, welcome.
Thank you, and thank you for having me here tonight. And it's an interesting day out there today. The weather was beautiful, a little cool this morning, but it was a beautiful sunny day. And we try to encourage people to get out to vote. Our elections office and the commissioners did a great job with signage to remind people about voting, more than we've seen in the past. But I'm hearing that the numbers are still not as great as we would have liked as far as turnout. It's approximately between 16 and 17% the last time they checked. And we always hope to encourage people to get out and vote. The vote is so important. These preliminary elections are similar to an election several years ago in a primary election where the turnout was not as large as we would have liked to see. But we encourage everybody out. There's obviously the mayor's race going on, and then there's we're going to be losing 2 good friends this year, Todd Petty and Tom Brophy, a very great length of great experience, and they've done a great job. Tom Brophy was one of our longest serving councillors at large when I served with him, and then prior to that, I came in on the school committee in an election in 1995 when Todd Petty ran for city councilor. And we were the new guys on the block back then, and as you can see, I've gained a lot of gray hair and put on a little bit of weight since then, so they call me the old guy now. But we have a lot of good people running. There's, I think it's 15 people running for council at large. Obviously, the 2 incumbents are not running again, and then 2 of our current incumbents are running, and then there's a lot of new people running. And then, as you mentioned, there is a ward race in Ward 5 and in Ward 7. So we're waiting to see the numbers out of those 2 wards as well.
Well, thank you. And I know people out there in election land, so to speak, in Brockton today appreciated your efforts, because it wasn't time to make the donuts, but it was time to give out the donuts, is that correct?
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate everybody who participates in an election, no matter who they're supporting. We have a lot of great candidates, but we also have a lot of great volunteers. I couldn't have won my elections in the past several years without a great group of volunteers, and I know many of the other candidates out there feel the same way. And they're the most important people behind the scenes that don't get to the forefront, don't get to play in the media, but there's so many great people. And one person that I always mention, Mary Virginia Curtis, who was a great supporter of myself and Senator Tom Kennedy and many of the candidates out there. And she was an angel, and she had, I tell you, more power than the Pope at St. Patrick's Church. And it was a great loss to our community in the city of Brockton when she passed away several years ago. And we always encourage young people to get involved because they're the next generations coming, and the decisions we make today are going to affect them in the future, whether it be in college costs, whether it be for business growth or just a comfortable way of living in our community. And Brockton's still a great city. We have a lot of great people in the city. We run into a few bumps along the road and some serious issues that we deal with day in and day out, but it's still a wonderful community to live in.
Thank you.
Let's go through what's actually going to happen here this evening. The polls closed at 8 o'clock.
Yes.
And what has happened here, Mike? The ballots are transposed to City Hall. What actually occurs?
There's a couple things. You can, with the efficiency we have today, and it all started with a mayoral's race many years ago when they had the so-called chads and they had to have another election. Because of that, Brockton was way ahead of the game, and our current city clerk, Tony Zioli, has done a great job making our system more efficient. And it's very efficient. So you can get the numbers right at the polling places. They have to post them right outside on the window, and you get it pretty rapidly. But then they also bring them back to City Hall to make sure everything's done correctly, make sure everything's done properly. They do a background check on everything, and they make sure everything's efficient. And then we get the final results. And if there's a close race like my race on the state rep seat a few years ago, everybody has a right to ask for a recount. I won by 14 votes, and I had some great other candidates in that race. Bob Sullivan was currently on the city council, and Connie Units, who's our former mayor's son, and Connie's been very active in our community as well. And it's always good to make sure everything is done properly, but because the system in Brockton is so efficient, there wasn't many great changes in that count that year. And I got to give credit to all the people who work in the elections department and our clerk's office as well. Brockton has one of the most efficient systems in the Commonwealth, and the state now goes by what Brockton has done several years ago. So we're very fortunate in the city of Brockton.
And we've definitely had a lot of a chance to try it out with a few special elections going on, and they just keep coming. At this point in time, I'm not sure whether we want to go to the tape we have out in the field or we want to go over to our other set. We have other guests here in the studio. If I can get some direction from my director or my floor director, I will endeavor to do that. So we're ready to go with the morning tape. Okay, so right now we are going to go out. Jay Miller went out.
Come back to City Hall and the elections office where they are tallied up, and the final numbers will be released, and we'll learn who's moving on to November. I had a good opportunity to go to wards 2 and 5 and visit with a couple of elected officials and some candidates running for office.
We're at the Manning Towers in Precinct Ward 2, Precinct B in the city of Brockton. And this is my ward, my precinct where I vote. Well, I've been running around helping to offer coffee and donuts to anybody, and I do a little sandwich run and so forth, because we want to help anybody who gets involved with these elections. There's all good people no matter who they're supporting. The key is, the most important thing is to get out and vote, and it's a very low turnout right now, which we expected, There was some stories in the newspaper this week and some media coverage on the radios and, of course, your cable station, which is very helpful. But it's tough to get the word out to people. People's lives are so busy today between, husbands and wives working, the students, their children have soccer practice, baseball, football. So people's lives are very busy, but it doesn't take long to vote. And that's the important thing. You can get in and out of there within less than 5 minutes. There's not any big lines like when the presidential race is going on. And I just encourage everybody to get out and vote. It's so important. No matter who you're supporting, you gotta get out and vote. I've had some great supporters over the years. Our great friend Mary Virginia Curtis has passed on. She was like an angel to all of us in the city. She was one of the hardest workers, very active with St. Patrick's Church. it's tough to get people involved, and I've had a great group of volunteers, and none of us can do the job alone. We're very fortunate, all the unsung heroes, not us as elected officials, but the people who work day in and day out behind the scenes, who don't get paid. They volunteer for their candidates because they believe in what their candidates stand for. And those are the people that you've got to support out there, because we can't do it alone. And we've got a great group of people in the city of Brockton. We're called the City of Champions because of all the unsung heroes, not the people like us who get our name in the paper every day. It's the people who work behind the scenes day in and day out. It was in 1995, I ran for school committee, and there was a lot of changes going on in the city, and I had some great support from the public out there.
We're out here at Precinct 5B. This is my home stomping ground, and it's election day. It's a beautiful day. The numbers are a little bit low, but we hope people will come out and vote. This campaign, of course, is different than others when you have two opponents. I haven't had two opponents since 1999 when I first ran for City Council, and this time around, of course, I have two people running against me, but we've been working very, very hard getting the message out, and I'll run on my record that 14 years experience, and I have gotten a lot of things accomplished in Ward 5. We want to continue to do that. That's why I'd like to represent the citizens of Ward 5 for another 2 years. Yeah, but over the past 14 years, the city's changed. We're a very diverse city. A lot of the seniors, some of them have moved to Florida and North Carolina with the warmer climates. But no, the city's, we're moving in the right direction. There's a lot of things happening, especially in my ward. We got a new Cumberland Farms coming in. We have streets paved, we got lights up, public safety. There's a lot of good things that have happened. Yes, I want to thank the voters of Ward 5 to continue to support me, and looking forward to serving them for another 2 years.
I'm very excited. I'm basically in Brockton. I'm at the east side where I grew up, 21 Hill Street. I'm in front of the doorstep, so I'm not too far away. The momentum, the support that I'm getting from the citizens of Brockton and across the city, they want change. Right now, the person who's in office, it's stale. It's been there 14 years. They want something fresh, unique, somebody that thinks outside the box. So I'm ready to make it happen. Been fundraising, meeting a lot of new people, knocking on doors, passing out flyers through Facebook, instant messaging. So between the social media and knocking on the door, grassroots, I'm getting a great response. Great response. I think what surprised me was the momentum that people say, Ollie, you've been doing this for a long time. I think you deserve to challenge the incumbent, and I think you can win. I just want to say I love Brockton, and thank you for all your support, and I'm ready to move Brockton forward.
Today is a great day. It's a beautiful day in Brockton. It's election day, preliminary day, and my team, we're out here with our campaign vehicle, cruising the polls and getting the word out. We started on the east side in Ward 5 because there's a big race in Ward 5, as you know, and we're moving all around the city all through the day from now until the polls close at 8 o'clock. The campaign has been going great. I got to say, the support has been tremendous. Everyone has been wonderful, and it's been nice talking to people and individuals in the city to find out what their specific needs are individually, and then as a group, as a whole, because that's what our job is as a councillor, is to represent the city, represent the citizens, and make the city a better place for everyone. I've been really impressed by the amount of positive energy in the city more than anything else, because everybody talks about the negatives of the city, they talk about crime and so on and so forth, but a lot of people, they batten down their hatches, and they don't move, and they leave the city. They stay, and they want to make it a better place. They don't want the bad guys to win. People tell me all the time, well, crime is getting bad, and I agree to a certain extent, as do they, but we won't leave. We won't let the bad guys win, and that's been the thing that surprised me and impressed me the most, is that people want to stay and stick their grounds and be the good guys.
Having a lot of fun out here. We have some supporters, Team Tagger out here, people that have been helping us all through the last couple of months. Like I said, I'm having a lot of fun. Very proud to have my dad's name. I'm named after my daddy. I'm very happy to have my dad's name on the ballot, so I'm honored to be part of it. But we plan on winning. We plan on getting through to the general election. So we need everybody to get out there and vote, though. We definitely need everybody to get there and vote. I've been in Brockton my whole life. Definitely not new to the city by no means. But I'm meeting a lot of people that I haven't had the opportunity to meet and do a lot of good, positive projects and be able to actually get some things accomplished. I'm learning another side about politics that You know, I mean, it is what it is. But like I said, there's a lot of good people. It's a great experience. It's a really great experience. I'm having a blast. The biggest thing that surprised me, and it shouldn't, is just the involvement of the residents. A lot of people are really getting involved, concerned about the issues that affect us. That's, again, I don't want to say it surprised me, but it feels good to see that actually people care and people want to get involved, like we should. I mean, it's our city. We need to be involved.
And we're back here live, election 2013, preliminary election, City of Champions, Mark and Ron and company, and we'll be joined by more guests. Ron?
Well, yeah, you're watching us on the BCA on Channel 12, and you're listening to us on 1460 WXBR Brockton. And Mark, I think we're going to be going somewhere else now.
Yes, we are. We have some experienced folks here in the room that have served the City of Champions, along with our Vice Chair of the Democratic City Committee and host of NAACP Forum. Ozzie, I'm going to let you take it away.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm sitting here with two folks that have been around a long time. And I have to say thank you only for one reason. You decided not to run this year, but boy, did it open up folks running. And 15 people running. It's the first time ever I've seen that many folks running for a seat, or seats actually, the at-large seats here in the city of Brockton. Let's start with both of you. We'll start with Tom, I guess, first. Why'd you want to leave?
Well, I've not consecutively, but I've served over 20 years on the city council. 10 years in Ward 5. Starting in 1990, first elected in 1989. I served in that capacity for 5 consecutive terms, and in 1999 decided not to seek re-election in that post. And then in 2003, there was opportunity to run as Councillor-At-Large, and I was elected in 2003 and began my service as Councillor-At-Large in 2004. And about the same time, 10 years. I did a reassessment at the end of my 4th term, decided back then that it would be my last term. This would be my last term. So I've enjoyed my 20 years on the City Council, but it was time to make a change in my life, and I'm very content with my decision. And it was an easy day out there today. I actually went to work. I voted first thing in the morning and went to work and came back and saw the activity. Surprised at the numbers. I thought they were going to be higher, but I think there's a reason for that, and I think we can talk about that later. But.
Right. Todd, same question. Basically, you've been around for a while also, and
yes,
you decided it's time to step out.
Yeah, you mentioned 15, the most people running at one time for Councillor-At-Large. I recall back in 1995 when I first ran, there was a seat vacated by Jerry Creedon, who was running for state representative. And in the 95 preliminary, there were 11 of us running. And we all worked hard. That was, I came in 5th in the preliminary back then, and then I was fortunate enough in November to capture the 4th spot. And I'm grateful and thankful that I've been reelected 8 times thereafter. And so I'm just finishing up my 9th term, and I have enjoyed it immensely. I enjoyed serving on all the subcommittees, Traffic Commission. I enjoyed working with people across the city, and I hope that over the past 18 years, the votes that I made on the City Council had a positive impact on everyone's everyday life. That's how I made votes and determined on how I would like to see things. And my wife and I, this past year, we kind of decided that this would be it for a Councillor-At-Large. And it's time for some other people with different ideas to come in, and hopefully they'll be able to vote the same way that I have. And thinking of the residents, and the bottom line is always what you're thinking of. Whatever it is, whatever the issue is, the main issue is the bottom line, and that's what I hope people that are coming in and are fortunate enough to be elected and serve on the City Council will do.
And we hope that the folks that are coming in can fill either one of your shoes. Tom, you've been around. You're kind of known as the corporate memory of the council, and when folks need to call on someone to call back on what happened 10, 15 years ago, that's you usually. And also you're a parliamentarian, which you've resolved or attempted to resolve in a lot of cases, the issues that come up during the council meeting?
Well, I've served under 5 mayors, going back to Carl Pitaro, and you know, I was a freshman councilor back in 1989, but in very unfortunate times, that was the year of the financial collapse in the city. I was fortunate to serve with some great councilors, George Pappas, Paul Studinsky, Bill Mara, Louis Angelo, very senior guys. And I didn't have a chance really to be green. Right. I had to learn fast, and that first year we saw the budget barely pass, and the state come in with the demand that we take a financial control board and set up the finance department, or we had a payless payday. So I learned very quickly because I had to. And so I've had the opportunity to serve with some great councilors, and I made mistakes along the way, but one thing I always did was learn from that. And so I learned the rules, and that was one thing that I prided myself in as a councilor, knowing the rules and trying to be effective. Always looked at the city's best interest, took it at heart, and took my job as councilor very seriously, and I considered it a job, and I was one person I felt, and along with Todd and a number of other people, that were capable of doing that job. So,
Todd, being in 9 times, what would you pass on to, well, hopefully we'll have a few new people coming on, what would you pass on to them on how to step into both your shoes, so to speak? Well,
you know, I'm the exact opposite of Tom Brophy when I first began. When I took office in 1996, that's when the government was flush with money. Jack Yunes was in his first term, and Win Farwell actually had a snow insurance policy that he had bought several years ago, and the city actually we had a very bad winter in 96, and we actually got many thousands of dollars. And I was fortunate enough to go through the Renaissance period, as it was called, in the city of Brockton. And but what is it that I would pass on to the new councilors is just please understand your constituents, listen to what it is they have to say, and again, always go to the bottom line. Think what it is you would like to pay for taxes, but also have to think about is public safety. You have to think fire and police, and the infrastructure of the city, 3 critical components to a successful community. And so I would just ask anyone that gets elected in November to always keep the constituents in mind. Tom, what words of wisdom could you pass on to the new folks?
Well, it's important, as Todd said, that you listen to your constituents. You have to weigh both sides, and at some point come to a decision. And once you make that determination as to how you're going to act, is to be steadfast and do what you feel is best for the city. It's important that you do your homework, that when you go into a council meeting, you've read all the orders, you've looked at the resolves, you've done your research, and be prepared for debate, and to welcome debate. It's one thing that I've always enjoyed is a good debate, and whether you win or lose, and I've won many and I've lost a few, maybe it's the other way around, but you win and lose. But the thing is that you move on to the next issue, you respect your fellow councilors, you respect your constituents, and above all, be prepared to do your job as councilor.
Well, one of the things that you mentioned, and either one of you could take this one, doing your homework, you do get a lot of the information beforehand. Does it really make sense to go over that so when you're sitting up there you have some idea of what's happening, or can you wait until that night to deal with issues? I know some issues do come on the floor, but in general there are a lot of things that come up beforehand. What would be the best way to handle that?
As soon as you get it, review it. It's just like doing homework when you're in school. You know, if there are any kids out there, you know it's not good to wait until the last minute to review your whatever it is you have for a test the next day. So as soon as you get it, or if you can even look at something prior to it being sent to you, it's always better to be prepared, make whatever notes you have to make, and call up department heads before the meeting, you know, to ask about a critical question, whatever you think is important, and just be ready to go with that, as Tom said, in committee. That's when the questions are asked, and be ready to go.
Well, they teach us in law school that you never ask a question that you don't know the answer to. Yeah. So you being prepared helps you in your quizzing of any department head or any person before the city council, but also be ready to probe in those areas where they don't seem to know the answers or you can't get the answers.
All right, I want to thank both of you for your service and for serving the city, and I'm sure before this is all over, there will be some activities around that area. And let me turn it back over to the main room at the moment.
It's a big party over here. Everybody's going to crash it. And, we invited a lot of people on. Thank you, Ozzy, and both the councilors. We'll be back over there in a little bit. I guess Mike is going to head over to City Hall and get some numbers?
Yeah, I'm hearing the numbers are coming in as we speak, so I'm going to head over there and get the numbers and get them into you guys here. And I also know there's other people who want to get on the panel here, so I'm going to let them get on. So thank you again for having me. And again, thank you for Councilors Tom Brophy and Todd Petty for a great many years of service, and you're going to be missed here in Brockton as far as elected officials, but I know you're still sticking around at the city, so thank you again.
I have a feeling they're going to be busy on cleanup day or some other venue, or maybe the wives are going to put them to work and they don't do city council business. I don't know. I don't even know if I should say that.
No, you shouldn't.
Ron, so far we have some numbers coming in from 1C. Tom has some numbers, but John Buckley, our Register of Deeds, is going to join us on set,
right?
and we're going to get some numbers from Ward 1. While we're doing this, we're live on both WXBR Radio and here on BCA Channel 12. The numbers we heard from City Hall, we're getting them 8:45, 9 o'clock, but we have Ward 1C and 1D. That's where John just came from, and we're going to welcome John Buckley to our set right now. John, how you doing?
Good.
Thank you for joining us. What do you have, John, so far?
Well, I had 1D was posted first, and it was, for mayor, it was 109 for Bill Carpenter, 36 for Chris McMillan, 122 for Linda Belzotti, and 14 for Ron Matter.
Okay, and that's 1C. D.
That's 1C.
That was C.
That was C.
That's
Do we have
1C.
D?
We do have
D.
1D.
Okay.
166 for Bill Carpenter, 70 for Chris McMillan, 274 for Linda Belzotti, and 46 for Ron Matter.
So basically, we're looking at close race in 1C.
Right.
And a pretty big spread in 1D.
Right.
1D usually is, Tom can comment on this too, because he's a Ward 1 guy as well. 1D is usually the one that always tops the ballot in terms of turnout.
It's a larger area. It's a very active precinct. That precinct is over at the Hancock School. In the back section is 1C. The front section is 1D. There's always a lot of activity. It's probably, I would say, the busiest precinct in the city.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
the
usually
largest.
the highest number of voters in the city.
We also have some Councillor-At-Large numbers as well for those.
I can give you those.
I didn't even get to look at them. Tom was busy writing them down from his source.
Do you want to read them, Tom?
That's fine. We can split. Why don't you do 1C, I'll do 1D.
Okay. 1C, Councillor-At-Large, Craig Pina, 54. Paul Beckner, 39. Shayna Barnes, 41. James Daly, 27. Ed Miller, 17. Patrick Quinn, 41. Robert Sullivan, 146. Nicholas Fernandez, 25, it looks like. Moises Rodriguez,
I think
47.
28.
Oh,
Let's
28?
give them the 3.
Okay, 28. I wouldn't take anything away from anybody. Moises Rodriguez, 47. Gary Keith, 17. Don Carr, 26. Jay Stewart, 130. Steve Foote, 20. Jacob Taggart, 17. And Tony Donegan, what number do you have there, Tom?
I have 36.
36.
With respect to 1D, for Craig Pina, 100. Paul Beckner, 66. Shayna Barnes, 81. James Daly, 44. Ed Miller, 41. Patrick Quinn, 56. Bob Sullivan, a very large number, 415. 27 for Nicholas Fernandez. Moses Rodriguez, 81. Gary Keith, 18. Don Carr, 42. Another large number, Jay Stewart, 253. Jacob Tagger, 46. I'm sorry, Steve Foote, 46. Jacob Tagger, 43. Tony Donegan, 101.
So 2 numbers in Ward 1C and 1D, lots of numbers actually, for 15 candidates. We just went over 30 numbers, and of course, both the incumbents,
You're doing very well.
Councilor Jay Stewart and...
Largest vote getters.
Right. We have Ron wanted to say something? I guess I have a sign that says Ron, so I guess...
How would he know I wanted to say something?
I don't know, I think he's reading your mind,
Fair
but we
point.
do have Councilor Stewart out in the lobby, so what we're gonna do here is, John, you're not dismissed quite yet.
Okay.
But we're gonna bring Jason, and we
Okay.
will continue to have some commentary.
Okay.
So if they can escort him to the studio.
Okay, I will say it's the bottom of the hour, and you're listening to WXBR 1460 Brockton, and you're watching on BCA Channel 12.
Okay. I'm going to open it up to a little bit of comment from Tom. Tom's circling numbers over here, trying to do the math on top spots, because as people know, when you vote in the Councillor-At-Large race, you vote for 4 candidates. Okay. However, 8 people go on from the preliminary election to the November election, and then it gets narrowed down to 4.
We're basically splitting the Councillors-At-Large down to half.
Right, exactly. And it'd be a lot easier to fit them all in the studio for a debate at this point in time.
That's why they do this. Yeah.
We're going to, so Tom, I know you're busy circling. Why don't you?
Sure. Well, with respect to 1C, the top vote getter, as we said, is Bob Sullivan. You have Jay Stewart, 2. Craig Pina, who lives in Ward 1, 3. We have Moses Rodriguez, number 4. We have a tie in Ward 1C for Shayna Barnes as well as Patrick Quinn. They both came in at 41. We have number 6 is Tony Donegan. Tony lives in Ward 3 but has spent some time in Ward 1 due to the rebuilding of his home. He had, unfortunately, a fire there, so he has spent some time in Ward 1 temporarily. 7 is James Daly, and 8 is Mr. Fernandez, Nick Fernandez.
Okay.
That's Ward 1C.
Okay, and 1D being the one that has the higher turnout. We'll talk about that.
I'm going to calculate that next.
All right.
Yes, so it's not unusual that Bob Sullivan, who lives in Ward 1, is very active, would top the ticket.
Correct.
Particularly, 1D, the big number in 1D is his home precinct. And
Yeah.
so I think that is expected, and put a lot of signs up, as people certainly have saw, and he's done a lot of good work over the years.
Well, we'll see if that starts a pattern of incumbents, especially Councillor-At-Large, being successful.
Right?
I think at this point in time, I'm curious to know if in the control room we might have that second tape that we did this morning, and what I may do is rearrange the seating a little bit while we're doing that, if that's any kind of a possibility. Is it? It is. Okay, so we're going to cue that recording up. I got to stop calling it a tape, guys. I've been doing this for so long.
What is
Everything
it?
was on a tape.
What do you
before.
call it now?
We record.
Yeah.
It's a digital media. It's actually we did record some of it on tape and we transferred it to digital media. So it gets a little crazy.
It's good to have an education during this program.
I guess so. I guess so.
I have the top 8 if you want 1D.
Okay, why don't we do 1D, and we'll take John's mic off and we'll bring Jay Stewart in on the other side.
Okay, well, 1D, the top vote getter, as we mentioned, Bob Sullivan. We have Jay Stewart, number 2. We have Tony Donegan, number 3. A close 4 by 1 vote, 101 to 100, is Craig Pina. Interesting, Shayna Barnes and this time Moses Rodriguez are both tied for 5th place with 81. We have 66, the next person, which is Mr. Beckner, Paul Beckner. 7 is Patrick Quinn. And in the 8th spot is Steve Foote.
So, and that's only 2 precincts reporting so far.
Correct.
By the end of the night, it all has to get sorted out to be, it gets sorted out to be 8 finalists. or 8 semifinalists, I should say, and it goes down to 4. Jace, welcome to Election Live.
Yeah, good to be here.
Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule, first of
Yeah.
all, to come down here. I know you have supporters waiting for you, I think over at Thibeault.
Thibeault.
Okay,
So
and a few
come,
people
come on
over
down.
there.
Yeah.
So what are you hearing out there? I'm sure you were out all day long working the polls.
And I did a lot of taking people to the polls, which was unusual for me during the election cycle. So that was good news, actually.
So full service candidate.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go. Okay.
I'm excited about the numbers I'm hearing so far, and it'll be interesting to see how the day unfolds. I was actually nervous myself. First of all, I'm nervous with every single election, but also with this one, my name seemed buried in the list of lots of folks. You really had to concentrate to find who you wanted to vote for. So the good news is that you had a lot of folks in the race. Hopefully it energized the population to get out and participate. We'll find out what the final numbers look like. The bad news is I was fearful of getting lost. So I'm excited about what the numbers look like.
Take me back to the first time that you ran for Councillor-At-Large and you had the election night and you were listening to results. What's going on inside? I mean, what's going on in your head and what happens?
Yeah, I think first of all, you have a sense of where you think you're going to do well, and then where you're the weakest. And so you're looking for those kinds of numbers. And if you start to hear news in places where you thought you were strong and you're not so strong, you start to get the jitters.
I see. So it starts between reality and what you would expect.
Yeah, and just the opposite. If you thought you were, weak in a particular precinct and you come out strong there, you're excited about that. But it's nerve-wracking for just the whole process. Because think about it, you've put in months and months and months of work and money and sacrifice, and it all comes down to yay or nay pretty soon for folks.
Yeah. Just a couple of minutes involved.
Yeah.
Now, I have a question for Jace as well. I know that you're a good social media person. You communicate a lot, you tell people what you're doing, you invite participation. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that you actually encourage people to run.
I did.
In this race, in your race,
Yes,
correct?
I did.
Okay.
And some of those folks ended up running. So I think I never believed that the seat belongs to anyone, and that's why we have elections every 2 years. And so I'm assuming that if you're in office, your job is to go out and make your case. Frankly, though, if you're doing your job, I think you're making your case well before the election. But that it's not assumed that it's your seat, it's the people's seat, not to sound too cliched. And so I think I was really hoping that people would participate, and it looks like folks have. Whether it was because of my, sort of encouragement or not, I think it's great that we have this number of candidates in the race.
Well, I remember seeing some of the comments, and some of the people were like, are you kidding? And some people did get in the, most crowded field that I ever remember, the most number of at-large. So you were a little worried with the ballot position, because if you think about it, if you're down below the top 8, I heard, whether it's true or not, that number 1 automatically gives you a little bit of a boost if you're number 1. Yeah. But number 15 down at the other end of the ticket, it looks like on at least one of the 2 Ward 1 precincts that Tony Donegan is in the top 8, and I guess the other one I'm not sure at this point, but you were worried about that.
I was worried about that. But I'm always worried. At this point, I've lost more races than I won, so this would, if being successful this time would even it out. So I know what it means to be victorious, but more importantly, I know what it means not to get through. So we did a lot of canvassing, and we haven't finished, but I think we've knocked on about 1,000 doors, mostly on the east side, moving west. So it'd be interesting to see what the numbers look like on the east side for me, if that paid off more.
I like your message, not to interrupt you, but I like your message, just go out and vote. And you weren't necessarily hawking yourself, but you were saying to the public, get involved, go out and vote. That is very altruistic of you to do that.
Thank you. And in fact, there are some candidates in this race that I sort of served as an unofficial advisor to, and some of them were at large. So the goal was just to make certain we had a strong field of qualified people who had a vision for the city, and frankly, if the vision aligned with some of my thinking, the better. So,
it'd be nice.
It's ultimately all about the votes when you get to the city council as well.
Exactly.
So let's see, candidate, elected official, driver, advisor, it all ties in kind of together.
Right,
What do you
exactly.
have to say to the citizens of Brockton, your constituents, the residents, or any of your supporters that might happen to be watching this?
Well, first of all, just for those folks who came out and participated, I'm very excited that you took that step. But this is sort of halfway down the field. As you know, we now need to get to the general election in November. So the work isn't done yet. So stay engaged, start paying up more attention, because I think it was difficult for folks to get their heads around the number of candidates. But now that we're starting to narrow the field, I'm hoping that people will start to listen a little bit more, engage a little bit more, and become more decisive as we go into November.
Well, thank you very much. I know
Yeah.
you're anxious to get over there. Thanks
Yes.
for stopping by, and
Thanks for having
we'll
me.
try to send somebody over there depending on how the whole night goes.
Did you want us to drive you down there? Or are you all set?
No, please.
Well, I was
No.
kidding. I was kidding.
You can't leave, Ron. We're not letting you leave. Are you kidding me?
Otherwise I would. I just
Don't
can't.
forget to take off the mic, Chase.
False promises. Be
Yeah.
careful.
Well, everybody be careful.
Okay. At this point in time, we have a. Do we have a tape to roll in? Okay. Let's just continue the discussion. I guess before we roll the tape, Tom has some numbers from the other two precincts in one. So
I have
let's go with those.
Yep, I have precincts 1A and 1B. I'll go with 1B since that came in first. With respect to the mayor's race, Bill Carpenter, 132, Chris McMillan, 56, Mayor Balzotti, 237, and Ron Matter, 20. With respect to the Councillor-at-Large, Craig Pina, 103, Paul Beckner, 43, Shayna Barnes, 105, James Daly, 54, Ed Miller, 32, Patrick Quinn, 51, Bob Sullivan, 275, Nicholas Fernandez, 40, Moises Rodriguez, 81, Gary Keith, 26, Don Carr, 25, Jay Stewart, 224, Steve Foote, 24, Jacob Tagger, 34, Jacob Tagger, 34, and Tony Donegan, 64. So with respect to the rankings, 1 goes to Bob Sullivan, 2 goes to Jay Stewart, 3 goes to Craig Pina, 4 is Moises Rodriguez, 5 is Patrick Quinn, 5 is Tony Donegan, 6 is Patrick Quinn, 7 is James Daly, and 8 is Nicholas Fernandez.
What about Shayna Barnes? I think we might have missed her. She would have been.
Oh, sorry, Shayna Barnes is 105.
So
She's
she
number
would be-
5.
she
She's
would be
number
3.
5.
All right, well, we'll recalculate.
We'll figure that.
those later.
Okay.
Okay, and you have 1A as well.
I have
correct?
1A. With respect to the mayor's race, we have Bill Carpenter at 113. We have Chris McMillan at 30. We have Linda Balzotti, Mayor Balzotti at 111. And we have Ron Matter at 10. As to Councillor-at-Large, we have Craig Pina, 43. Paul Beckner, 29. Shayna Barnes, 52. James Daly, 27. Elliot Miller, 13. Patrick Quinn, 26. Bob Sullivan, 127. Nicholas Fernandez, 31. Moises Rodriguez, 55. Gary Keith, 20. Don Carr, 21. Jay Stewart, 145. Steve Foote, 10. Jacob Tagger, 26. And Anthony Donegan, 35. So going back to 1C, Shayna is number 3. 1C, Shayna Barnes is number 3, behind Jay Stewart, and then Craig Pina, 4.
And then we'll recalculate and reset those. It's hard with all these numbers to do that at this point. I believe at this point in time, we're going to get back to the other set as well, because I'm anxious to hear what the two outgoing councilors think. But at this point in time, I know we have another recording. We went out in the field and talked to some other candidates today just to balance it out a little bit. We heard from two of the candidates for City Council in Ward 5. On this recording, we have the third one. So let's take a look at that tape, and we're going to turn to the monitor, and we're going to take a look.
We're here at Councillor-At-Large, Bob Sullivan. Bob, election day, voting day here, the preliminaries. Talk about, how you feeling for the race?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's a wonderful day. Look at the weather, and it seems to be a decent turnout. You always expect and you hope for more, but it's still early in the game. There's going to be a rush I'm sure after work, but I'm happy with what my campaign's done. All summer we worked extremely hard, Newbie, and it's the preliminary. So we're working. We will work until 8 o'clock, but we're trying to get our message out and our vote out, and we hope for the best.
Talk to some of the voters and explain to them the different stuff that you've accomplished at the city council level.
Yeah, some of the endeavors that I'm proud of the most this year alone was the streetlight acquisition, and what that did was through my initiatives and the colleagues' buy-in, the city of Brockton purchased every streetlight in the city of Brockton for $30,000 from National Grid. Now, $30,000 seems like a lot of money, but when you're talking a budget of $360 million, it's not. And really, the win-win for the city of Brockton is this year alone, because we paid $30,000, we saved $650,000 because we had to pay National Grid rent every single month. So we saved that this year. Next year there'll be a savings, in the following year, and the following year. So that's something that's a real savings, real money during tough times. It's going to mean jobs for fire and police and teachers in the classroom. That's something I'm proud of. And I'm also doing an initiative right now. It's an ordinance, it's a law that's going to be passed, I hope, that's going to help the veterans and the seniors. They're going to be able to volunteer time in the city of Brockton, and we'll figure out what it is, but it will be in the schools, and it will be at Council on Aging and War Memorial and City Hall. And as a result of their volunteerism, they're going to get a price reduction, dollars off of their real estate tax. So it's really going to be a win-win for the city and also for the people that really need it the most.
We're feeling really good. I guess we'll all find out around 8:30, 9 o'clock tonight, but we've been receiving a tremendous amount of support. We've been out since 6:30 this morning. Everywhere we're going, we have a great sense of momentum, and it is only the preliminary, but for us as a challenger, it's the culmination of 6 months of hard work for a lot of people, and we're a little anxious to see the results tonight, but we believe we're in contention.
Now, it's got to be a humbling feeling. You go over the cities, everyone holding up signs. It's got to be a humbling feeling, the amount of support that you're getting.
It's exactly what it is. It's something I really gave a lot of thought to when I couldn't sleep last night, and I really gave that a lot of thought as to how many people have devoted so much of their time working so hard on my behalf, and it's really hard to even put into the words the gratitude that I have for those people. But you're right. Hundreds of people we've got over 200 volunteers, I think, out around the city today holding signs. It's overwhelming. It's overwhelming.
Well, I'm feeling pleased that more people have shown up at particular polling places that they weren't expected to. So that's encouraging because it's bringing more people involved. What's exciting is we're standing here today and more people than ever before are now involved with elections in any way, shape, or form, whether it's as a candidate, as a voter, or as a volunteer. It's been interesting going out and talking to individuals about their concerns. As many, as you've talked to today, probably told you the concerns that have been come across people's minds with all the activity in Brockton. But what's most important is that people are getting more involved, they are being more vocal, they are speaking, and we all are fortunate enough to have the right to vote, those of us that are registered voters, and I hope they're sending the message to someone who isn't to do so and to encourage people and realize that the communication lines are open, and that I feel that I've expressed, and I hope that throughout all this, that's the impression people are getting, because regardless of what happens, we're still going to do great things in a great community with a lot of great people.
It's going great today. I've got a lot of people out. People are excited, and we're trying to get our vote out, and that's the key to this race today.
What have you learned just talking to the different voters out there, different people in the community? What have you learned that you want to try to implement if you get into the city council?
People want responsible government. They want to find a way to increase our commercial tax base and reduce property taxes. They want it, but number one, they want a safe city. They want our city to be safe, and that's finding the ways to do that. That's the key thing.
Talk about some of the stuff that you might implement? Any ideas, any different ideas you might implement at the city council level?
First of all, streamlining all the processes for permitting and licensing. We really need to get into the 21st century with that and make things easier for businesses to open up. We can no longer hear these stories of processes being implemented on an uneven basis. So we really need to streamline it, make everything equal for everybody.
Feel pretty good. Things are going good. Our people have been out all day long, and looks like we're having a good turnout. So that's what we're looking for. We've been up in Ward 6 a lot, so that's my home ward. So we're looking for a good turnout, and we think we're going to do well today.
Talk about some of the different stuff you learned talking to the different voters in the community. What are their concerns?
Well, the taxes is always a big thing. That's one thing that we hope to change and get the taxes down for everybody, widen the base to bring in more revenue. That allows us to do all the other things we want to do.
Talk about if you're elected into the office, what are different type of stuff that you'll bring to the table?
Well, what we want to do is address the road repair problems. I mean, that's one thing you learn when you're running citywide. You're all over town, and you see the conditions of the roads in all wards is deplorable. And something's got to be done about it. They at one point had a program where they were going to repave the roads over a period of time, over every 5 years they were supposed to be done, and council authorized $1 million to buy the computer program that was supposed to do it, and it's never materialized. I'm going to find out why, and if not, I want that $1 million back in the general funds.
Any final thoughts you want to say to all your supporters?
Just thank you very much for anybody that has already voted for me, and if you haven't voted for me, go out there and vote for Steve Foote, Councillor-At-Large, number 13 on your ballot.
And we're back here live, Election Central 2013 Brockton preliminary election. Here with Ron Van Dam. We're simulcasting both on BCA Channel 12 Government Channel and WXBR AM 1460 Radio. We have been joined in studio with another guest. I invited any candidate or any elected official that's in this race or the next race to come down to the studio or call us on the phone. We have Ward 1 City Councilor Tim Cruz. Welcome, Tim.
Good to be here, and really happy that you're simulcasting on XBR. It's one of those nights when people really missed not having a radio station. So it's great that you guys are back, because it's a lot of people at home. Everybody doesn't have cable,
right?
And it's great to be able to get some news at home.
Thank you.
So Ron was asking me whether this was just Ward 1, and we were going to forget about the other wards. It just happens to be that those numbers came in from Ward 1 quicker. And Mr. Buckley, who lives in Ward 1 as well, came down and brought us the numbers. Tom's been getting them on his phone. Phone's going to hopefully last for the election night. But what have you heard? I'm sure. Were you out and about today, or did
I was
you
out and
actually
about.
work?
I worked. Of course, I work in the dreaded private sector. So as I like to tease all those who don't, but I was around. Although I snuck off for the soccer game this afternoon. Brockton High boys won their game 3-0 over Durfee, but we couldn't televise it because the whole crew is here working instead of up there.
So it was a home game?
It was a home game.
Okay, well, we thank you, first of all, for your help with those games.
Oh, I love doing it. The kids have a great time. But I tell you, the one surprise today, I am amazed. I really thought the turnout would be higher today than it seems like it's going to be. I haven't heard a final number, but I'm amazed. Looks like it's going to be maybe 18% or so, and I really thought with all the new candidates, it brings some new vigor, and a little disappointing actually. I mean, it's not totally surprising in the precincts where there wasn't a council race necessarily, but I thought it would be higher than that. Did you think that, Ron?
Well, I did. I mean, it was lower last time around when you didn't have so many seats open, so many people vying for it. But yeah, it's always surprising. Surprising isn't the word. Disappointing, really.
I agree.
The way
Disappointing.
We all feel. Yeah.
Disappointing, and again, I heard Jace talking before, and I agree with him totally. And I'm sure people say, "Oh, you don't mean that," but it's good to have a race. I mean, I've been fortunate to be unopposed for these years, but it's good to have a race. It's good to get the discussions going. It hopefully gets more people interested, but. Again, only around 18%. Maybe it gets as high as 20 when we finally get all the numbers in. I don't know, but a shame. You're not going to get much better ever weather for an election. I mean, it was perfect out today, and nobody has a reason for not going. So I think it is disappointing.
It is, but I mean, obviously in November it'll be a different story.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, it's in a preliminary, you kind of feel like, well, let other people make that decision because there's still a decision to be made after that. But no excuse. I mean, that's not what it's about.
But that preliminary, I mean, especially in this at-large race, we're going to have at least 3 new councilors for the first time in a long time. And I see my 2 outgoing colleagues over across the studio here, and I'll seriously say before I tease them that we're going to miss having them there because the experience is important, but the new fresh blood can be good too. And 15 people running, and to have the amount of people voting, I think
amazing.
I think it is a disappointment.
Have you noticed how much they're smiling though? That now they know that they're leaving, and yeah, they're like they're just beaming.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's to go out on your own terms is a good thing. Yes, is a good thing. So. Is. And they've both done yeoman's work for years, and I understand they're leaving, but on a personal level, I'm not happy with them. So,
well, the big question, Tim, is who are they going to put the picture of Councillor Studensky behind?
Well, I think we'll finally have to put it behind his son now that Councillor Brophy is leaving. Many people may not know that tradition, but the painting of Councillor Studensky when he was Mayor Studensky moves around on the wall behind Councillor Brophy. At the request of then Councillor Studensky, so we could keep an eye on him and make sure he didn't misbehave. So I would think we'll now put that behind Councillor Studensky. So.
Okay, well, we're going to go over to the other set and let our councillors at large that are currently serving, getting ready to leave with a big smile on their face, I guess, and Ozzie Jordan talk about what they've heard so far for results. Take it away, Ozzie.
Results that have come in so far. Tom, you've been keeping the numbers, I think, better than Todd and I have, and as what you've done normally when you're up at the council. What do you see so far?
Well, it's only one ward, but if the trend continues, it looks like it's shaping up to a Belzardi and Carpenter race. But this is only one ward, and we still have to see what happens in Ward 7 and as we move out of Ward 1. But the numbers, if that trend continues in the mayor's race. Also, in the council-at-large race, if the trend continues, and I'm pretty confident of this, that the 2 incumbents are going to do very well tonight. It looks both Councillor Sullivan and Councillor Stewart have done extremely well. And the numbers in regards to the new candidates, they're kind of all over the place. There's some that are doing better than others. Greg Pena, Shana Bonds, Tony Donegan, Pat Quinn, and Moses Rodriguez. They seem to be getting more votes, but it's still early. It's only one ward. I will say this, and to have to criticize the lack of attention that the council-at-large race has received. We know it's 15 people, and it's an unwieldy number, but if it wasn't for XBR and cable, there wouldn't have been any exposure. Right. There's some blame goes to the candidates, because I only had one council-at-large candidate come to my door, not a lot of literature, but a major part of this falls upon the local newspaper. Their lack of coverage here has been abysmal. Mm-hmm. Putting the names in the paper isn't enough. Todd will tell you, we receive a questionnaire every year that we fill out. Right. Tell them, Todd, we get a questionnaire and they would put it in the paper, our background and a couple of issues, nothing. We didn't see that this year, and it's a shame. Because people, they make a big deal about Sunshine Week every year, about letting the public know they did nothing on this race. And with the other 2 races too in the wards.
Yeah, I think you see that when you're driving around the state and you're in other cities and towns, you do see a lot more of the local township or city providing information, today or 7 days left to voting day or what have you. We do depend on the cable, we do depend on our radio that's back, and that's been mentioned, great that is back. But I don't know, today with newspapers, if people are going to the social media more, or what the reason is, I thought also, like it was mentioned earlier, that having 15 candidates might bring a whole lot of new folks out to vote. But so far, I haven't seen that. Those of us that are kind of political junkies, we stay aware of this, but when you start asking people, we don't know what's what. What's your thoughts on this, Todd?
Well, going along with the numbers here, it's clear that the incumbents have an advantage. But as Jay Stewart had mentioned, he's down at the bottom third of the list, and Councilor Sullivan's in the middle. So incumbency does help, and the fact that you've done a good job helps as well. So people are looking for your name, and obviously they've checked Bob Sullivan and Jay Stewart off. The others, it's a hodgepodge. 40 here, 50 there. So it's going to be up to the other 6 to see who will, finish off the list. The top 8. I think that what are people doing? They're not reading the newspaper as much. We know newspaper circulation is way down. Right. Social media. I've seen most of the candidates that have been on one form of it or another, and I noticed that Mayor Belzotti, whenever I did go to enterprisenews.com, that she was the only one that had an ad pop up. Did that translate into votes? I have to say it had to help a little bit. But so we'll see how the rest of the evening goes.
Tom, any thoughts on how to get this information out? We have elections, and if it's statewide or if it's national, it doesn't seem to be a problem. But certainly over the years, the numbers with the local elections, in our case, citywide elections, we just don't seem to bring out the folks.
Well, local politics is we're local politicians, and we see people at the supermarket, and we see them, in the coffee shops, and so we're the closest to the electorate, and so the social media may be more beneficial in a larger race in a statewide, nationwide. But nothing beats going and knocking on doors and getting one-on-one with people, getting your information to the voters. And I will say, and I criticize the candidates as well, I don't believe that they were reaching out as they should have been. The council-at-large race is a name game. If you're well known, you're going to do better than other people. People recognize your name. I mean, I was Ward 5 councilor for 10 years. I think there's probably at least 2 generations that went to high school with a Petty up at Brockton High School. Yeah. So, and Petty's Market, so a well-known name. It makes it easier to break into the council-at-large race. It is it's a tough nut to crack as a first-time candidate, and most of the people here are first-time candidates, although there are a few people who run before. And some of those people are doing better. Jim Daly, I don't think he put a sign up, and he seems to be doing pretty good. Because he was a school committee.
He was a school committee person. Right. And there are a few other names, as you mentioned, that are on that list. That
Paul
have been,
Beckner,
individuals
Patrick
who have been
Quinn,
around the city doing
Moses.
things. So,
Yep.
Moses Rodriguez. Yep. So it seems to work that way, but there has to be something, because I know folks talk about wanting to be involved or wanting to go out to vote, but when you run into folks who say, "Did you vote today?" and say, "Oh, it's today?" So we're not getting that actual date out, that no matter how it happens, they need to know today, maybe on the way to work, so on the way home, because most people, I think, once you get home, you get on that couch, you're not getting off again. If you can catch them before they get home, then you've got it.
There's a second component to that, reaching out to people, is that identify the vote and get them out.
Right.
And I saw no checking, people at the polls checking off a vote. I didn't see any of that today.
There's a lot of that, back in 1995, I never would have thought of the year 2013, believe me. I never thought, this far ahead. But back then, I remember when Jack Units ran the first time. That's when I ran. Mo Hancock ran the first time. Mike Brady ran for school committee. Back then, politics now it seems old school. Because that's when we walked and we knocked. We went to hundreds of doors on a weekend. Politicking then was much different than it is today. And as Tom just alluded to, I think walking and knocking and talking is a lot better than social media. Yeah. But then again, to get people out to vote, Ozzy, it's still personal responsibility. You hear it. You can put out all the tent signs on the sidewalks you want, but even in the smaller communities, 8%, 12% in some communities, like in West Bridgewater, one of the recent elections had a very, very small turnout. East Bridgewater had, several, I think 800 people turn out for one election. People have to get involved everywhere and understand that an election is coming up. We can't get you and pull you out. We'd like to pull you out of the house, but you can't do that with everyone.
Right. It could be one of the things that go back to education. At one time, everybody went through a civics class. Yeah. Okay, I came out of the Boston system, and every year there was an election. They had a pre-election, And the interesting part on that was the youngsters that voted, it was about maybe 3 or 4 days before the main election. It always came true to whatever that vote was, the main vote came through. Why? The reflection of the family. Okay, but these things don't happen as they once did. So I'm wondering, do we need to take a step backwards? Folks are always saying you got to go forward, you can never go backwards. But learning why we vote, what it's all about. We have people around the world right now that are in harm's way to protect this. There's questions about the vote, and we won't go into all that. But these are things, again, Tom, any feelings on this?
Well, I think what we're teaching people of government, I mean, I work at the State House as well, and it's interesting to note how many people really don't understand how government works. Right. And it goes down to the local level. I mean, we do our best to try and educate people, and we have cables there every week, and a lot of people watch us, but I rarely saw any of the candidates who come to city council meetings. When I first ran back in 1989, when I decided to run, I went to every city council meeting. I went to the finance committee meeting, and in those days, the finance committee was a council of the whole. They did everything. They did ordinances. They did the public safety. There was no subcommittees. We went back to subcommittees when I was elected, but you see longtime Brocktonians who have never been in City Hall, and that's just wrong.
Yeah. Maybe in terms of the civic class that you mentioned, maybe we should have, the 3 R's, reading, writing, arithmetic, and politics. I remember my first couple of terms in, I went up to the Belmont School when Sarah Lupica and Trish Mency were teachers up there. And I'd go up to the classrooms, their classes at the time, and hold a mock election. And the kids really enjoyed it. I'd break the room up into 7 pieces. Say your award, get one person to represent, you 6 or you 5 over here, and come to City Hall instead of en masse with one person instead, to tell us what it is you'd like to have happen. And the kids learned a lot from that. You should probably do it more in schools.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. I think there are people out here willing to participate that and go into the schools and talk about, how do you put a bill together, how do you put an ordinance together, et cetera. What does all that mean, and what level should you deal? As I've said to a lot of people, your subcommittee level is where you need to deal, because once it hits the main council, it's up or down. Yeah. But in subcommittee, you can be heard, you can participate, and the same thing with the school committee. You can, at the subcommittee level, you can sit in and actually form the policy, where once it gets to the main meeting, the main group, it's really an up or down vote in most cases. So, I mean, these are things that people just don't understand. They want to participate, and it means taking a little time out. Get off that couch. Go up there and sit up and see what's going on, at the council meetings. They're not that long. Most council meetings are only about an hour, hour and a half. And so it's not like the old days when we had a few that used to go to 3, not 3,
I
but
went to midnight.
12, some of the good ones. School committee did too, because there was a lot of those back in the day.
You mentioned the committees, it's been said by our forefathers that, government in committee is government in action, and government in session is government on display. Because you're right, in council, that's when we make the up or down vote, but all the discussion, all the debate is done in committee.
Right.
Yeah.
So these are the things, again, that we need to look at. I have thought, I don't know, so many times on how do you go around and do things. Back in my day, again, there was something they used to do. They used to go around with the old loudspeakers, okay? And that would be something. But there's a noise ordinance now that would prevent that from happening. But at least you can let people know that, that's what's happening. So, today is the day, go out and vote. But you can't do that anymore.
Yeah. I think as a government, we need to do more. Yeah.
Without a doubt. And start it in school. That's where you can get the kids interested.
And as young as possible, all the kindergarten the way up. Well, I can see the main desk is ready again, so let me turn it back over.
Thank you. We'll be back over to you guys in a little bit. We have some numbers, and I believe, if I'm correct, that we're going to put up numbers for Ward 2 on the screen in the mayor's race. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. Numbers for Ward 2, totals. We have Bill Carpenter in Ward 2 with 352 votes. Christopher McMillan with 83 votes, Mayor Linda Balzotti with 336 votes, and Ron Matta with 41 votes. So that is Ward 2 totals for the whole ward, or is that just for a precinct? It says totals, but we'll come back to this. I'm not sure if that's totals for Ward 2 altogether, because I have, it could be.
My guess is it's the total.
You think? Okay. We have joining us here in studio at this point another candidate for Councillor-at-Large. We have Nicholas Fernandez. Welcome, Nick.
Thank you guys for having me. Thank you, Ron, Mark, and Thomas. Appreciate
How has your day gone so far? I'm sure it's quite the day. We're past 8 o'clock. We're a little past 9 o'clock at this point.
No, the day was long, but it was cold. But it was definitely very exciting, and it was very enthralling for me. This is my first election ever, so as a candidate. So it was definitely a thrilling experience. I started out going, bringing out signs for volunteers to hold, but then I realized that I should probably get on the phones and call some people, and I actually got a lot of feedback from people who didn't even know the elections were today, so hopefully that will help my numbers out a lot more than the sign holding did.
We haven't got a lot of Councillor-at-Large numbers at this point in time. Do you have anybody either at City Hall or at individual polling places? I know first-time candidate, but you've learned pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So what do you have any idea where you're placing at the moment?
I mean, I think that I'm probably towards the bottom of the lower 8 that will get through. That's kind of what I've been hearing from the polls out there. When they print out the tickets and things like that. So that's kind of what I've been getting. But hopefully I will make it through. But I'm prepared either way, and this is definitely not going to stop me if it ends up being a negative result. But it's been a thrilling experience so far. So.
So I guess we have some numbers coming in at this point in time. Looks like we have at this point. I don't mean to cut you off there.
No,
it looks
fine.
like we have all counters, all races. Okay.
All right.
So why don't we take a look? I'm going to run down the Councillor-at-Large numbers while you're sitting here. I know that's kind of nerve-wracking.
No, that's fine.
But I'm going to go from the top of the ballot to the bottom, and then maybe Tom and Ron can help me dissect who's first. Actually, I can look at the percentages at this point. I'm going to go with numbers in terms of percentages and totals. For the Councillor-at-Large race citywide, Robert Sullivan, 4,320 votes, or 18.97%. And these are from John McGarry. They are unofficial numbers, but they're is pretty close to good, as I would say. Next candidate is Jay Stewart with 3,848 votes, or 16.9% of the vote. So that's 1 and 2. No surprise there, because they're both incumbent councillors, and 2 councillors are outgoing, and there's a lot of people said 2 open seats. I think Jace earlier tonight said all of them were open seats, and that's kind of a nice way of thinking. Next in line, the way I look at it, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's 8% of the vote,
Correct.
which 8.03, which is Moses Rodriguez in the 3rd spot, which is 1,828 votes, followed behind by Craig Pena, is 1,578 votes, or 6.93% of the vote. Followed closely behind would be Shana Barnes, 1,505 votes, or 6.61% of the vote. Followed by, I would say,
Paul Beckner.
Paul Beckner, 1,264 votes, or 5.55. Might want to play that number. Next behind him is, nope, it would be James Daly, 1,235 votes, or 5.42% of the vote. And behind him would be Anthony Donegan with 1,161 votes, or 5.10%. Did I get 8?
Yep.
Yes.
Those are
That's
8.
That's the 8.
Okay, so I'm glad my eyesight is still good and I can read the Councillor-at-Large numbers.
Just rattle that down one more time?
Yes,
So
Tom, why don't I let you go with,
it's
with those numbers?
Bob Sullivan, Jay Stewart, Moises Rodriguez, Craig Pina, Shayna Barnes, Paul Beckner, James Daly, and Tony Donegan, in that order.
And Nick, you had 932 votes, or 4.09%. Real close, Steve Foote, 934 votes, 4.10, and Jacob Tagger, 903 votes, 3.97. At some point along the way, I missed, I missed Mr. Keith. He had 787, 346. I think in the last spot is Ed Miller, 444, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if I got all of them. We're going to run them all down a couple of times. But, Nick, one thing I want to say for you, I'm looking at the totals up on the screen. So, and those aren't in order of, that's the ballot order. We did everything in ballot order, just to be fair. So I'll run it out. Ron, actually, you want, can you see it, or you want me to do it?
Nick is 11th. I think Nick came in 11th.
I can do it.
Okay, so...
All right, let's run down the whole thing. Craig Pina with 1,578 votes. Paul Beckner, 1,264. Shayna Barnes, 1,505. James Daly, 1,235. Ed Miller, Elliot Miller, 444. Patrick Quinn, 1,081. Robert Sullivan, 4,320. Nicholas Fernandez, 932. Moises Rodriguez, 1,828. Gary P. Keith Sr., 787. Dawn Gale Carr, 899. Jace Stewart, 3,848. Stephen Foote, 934. Jacob Tagger Jr., 903. Anthony Joseph Donegan Jr., 1,161.
And I think that is...
And I believe I need an eye test.
Well, good job,
yes.
Ron. Nick, one thing I want to say is, if I'm correct, 23?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me tell you something. I got involved when I was 14. It took me a lot longer to decide to run for office than you did. I think you're a credit to Brockton. I think you ran a great campaign.
Thank you.
I hope you stay active.
I will.
And there's plenty of other ways to serve. One of my friends always tells me there are ways to serve. You're already doing that at work. You work at City Year?
I did. I worked at City
Year.
Yeah.
Okay, and you're serving, your family's serving too, because there's a great restaurant over on North Main, and even though we're non-commercial, JJ's Cafe is a great place to go.
Definitely.
But what do you have to say to the constituents, the voters, the people that were out in the field that you met and you talked to?
First, I want to thank everyone who voted for me for giving me that chance. I think garnering almost 1,000 votes is a type of support that encourages me not to give up and not to stop here, but to continue. Obviously, I didn't do enough at this point to, break through in the top 8. I know the results are unofficial, but it's looking that way. But I definitely want to give them. Just a big hug and tell them thank you for supporting me, and that I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stay I'm not going to be inactive. I'm going to stay active in the community, and I'm going to encourage others to be active in the community, because there's a lot of other areas outside of politics that people need to be involved in.
A lot of councilors didn't make it through the first time, and then later on in their political career, they did make it.
Yeah.
So that's your future as well.
I appreciate that. And I remember one person telling me that Abraham Lincoln lost 13 times before he finally made it through. So, there's a lot of different stories to look forward to in that regard.
Maybe next time you run, you might be able to do like a Lincoln Douglas debate and have 9 minutes of fame on a 15-person councillor-at-large. But thank you for all you do, and I'm sure you're ultimately going to have 8 best friends come tomorrow that are all going to be knocking at your door to help
I believe
them.
it.
Okay, so thank you for everything you did. I'm going to run down some other numbers. You can stay with us for a minute, and then we're going to kick it back to the other set. I have numbers in the mayor's race. I don't know if we have them to put up on the screen, but I can go I can go through them because everybody's waiting
Yeah,
for
let's
these
do
numbers,
these, yeah.
okay? I'm going to go through, I'm going to do mayor, and then Tom and Ron can do
You're
the
on the
Ward
screen.
5 and the Ward 5. So here are the numbers in the mayor's race, and they're not in order, they're ballot order. Bill Carpenter, 3,035. Christopher McMillan, 1,355. Mayor Linda Balzotti, 3,853. Ron Matta, 463. And there were 15 write-in votes, and we're anxiously awaiting to find out if Peter Zimmer is among those. But the percentage in the mayor's race, which is not up on the screen, Mayor Balzotti, 44.18% to Bill Carpenter's 34.8%. Christopher McMillan, 15.54%, Ron Matta, 5.31%. So the two finalists in the mayor's race are Mayor Balzotti and Bill Carpenter, a school committee member from Ward 5. We'll have reaction to all of these, but let's go to the numbers. I'm going to go to Tom, and I'll either see which one's up on the screen, or we can go over the numbers in the other two ward races. Why don't we start with Ward 5? Tom has the numbers and he'll read them, and we can recap them later if we don't have them up on graphics. So Tom?
Sure, we have 3 candidates, and as we all know, it gets weeded down to 2. Ann Beauregard, 277 votes, 20.91% of the vote. Ollie Spears, 400 votes, 30.19%. And the incumbent, Dennis DiNapoli, 642 with 48.45%.
Okay, so we have the two candidates in the Ward 5 race. Let's go over to...
And again, they are Dennis DiNapoli and Ollie Spears.
Correct. And Ron, why don't you run down Ward 7?
Okay, in Ward 7, in order of the ballot, Shirley Rita Asak, 320 votes, which amounts to 30.8%. Timothy Sullivan, 437 votes, which is 42%. And Richard Sicaro, 276 votes, which is 26.5%. So there are your, it looks like Shirley Asak and Timothy Sullivan.
And Shirley Asak is a newcomer to Brockton politics. This is her first run for city office. Tim Sullivan is one of Tom's fellow school committee members from Ward 7. He's the chairman of the Brockton Housing Authority. So those are the two finalists. At this point in time, a little comment over here from the folks on this set, and then we're going to go over to the other set. Tom, what do you?
Well, I mean, with respect to Ward 7, the council race, like you mentioned, Tim's been on the school committee for a few years. He's very active in the community. He is the chairman of the Brockton Housing Authority, so it's not a surprise to me that he did so well. He works hard. He's out all the time, and it's going to be an interesting situation. I mean, it's still going to be a race because you have the gap that is not insurmountable. But again, whoever works the hardest, I think, is going to prevail in the end.
Ron?
Things fell pretty much the way I thought they would. Not that I'm a barometer, but obviously in the mayor's race, we have incumbent Mayor Linda Balzotti and Bill Carpenter. That should be an interesting final for November. Richard Sicaro, a little surprised there. I thought he was a very strong showing. So I'm a little surprised in the Ward 7 councillor race. But otherwise, falls through. I can't even wrap my brain around Councillor-At-Large at this point. It's just too many people, and I just, whatever. But yeah, that's, your brain explodes with that.
We're going to wrap it around in a minute. And first up, I want to bring it over to the other set for Ozzie and Todd and Tom to talk about the Councillor-At-Large race a little bit. And I have found out that I do have Senator Kennedy out in the lobby. So as soon as you guys talk about the Councillor-At-Large race, we're going to kick it back to us. We'll talk for a few minutes, and then we'll bring Senator Kennedy in, who is one of the deans of Brockton politics, knows a lot about it. I'm getting texted. I have a few other guests that might show up. We're at about 9:25. We'll stay on the air close to 10, and then we'll probably call it a wrap. So, Nick, I just want to thank you for coming on.
Thank you guys
Sit
for
tight for a minute, and then I'm going to kick it over to Ozzie Jordan and our two outgoing councillors at large. Ozzie, back to you.
Yes, we were looking over here at the at-large. Tom, you had some numbers you were looking at?
Yeah, it looks like we got Bob Sullivan as coming in first, and followed by Jay Stewart. So as we talked about earlier, the trend continued. Bob had 4,320 votes for 18.97% of the vote, followed by Jay Stewart, 3,848 for 16.9. So it looks like the incumbents did very well. Now it comes down to who are going to be the other 6 that will be in the final. And it did come down to people who have run for office before or are currently holding office or held office. So number 3 was Moses Rodriguez, who's run for council at large before and also worked for Mayor Harrington in the mayor's office when Mayor Harrington was mayor. He was 1,828 votes, or 8.3%. Number 4 was Greg Pina. He is the chairman of the Republican City Committee, also was a candidate in 1999 for Council Ward 5. He came in 4th with 1,578 votes, or 6.93%. Number 5 would be Shayna Barnes. This is her first race, but she has been involved. She works for Representative Steve Lynch, and so she's been involved politically in the city. She came in 5th, 1,505, or 6.61%. Number 6 was Paul Beckner. He ran in Ward 5, and he also ran at large in the past. He received 1,264 votes, or 5.5%. Number 7, where is 7?
Number 7, I would say, is Tony Donegan.
No, wait a minute. Is Jim Daly.
Jim Daly.
Jim Daly, who was a school committee person over in Ward 6, served for many, many years. 1,235, or 5.42% of the vote. And coming in the 8th spot was Anthony Tony Donegan, the school committeeman, current school committeeman in Ward 3, 1,161 votes, or 5.1%.
So that's the group that's going to be running for the final.
Those are the 8. Those are the 8 that are going into the
8 people go on for the 4 seats.
And this is the unique part for the incumbency now. It's going to actually, Stewart is going from the bottom 3rd to number 1 on the ballot, because it goes alphabetically by incumbents and then alphabetically by the challenger, by the other 6.
Okay.
So Stewart and Sullivan are going to be at the top of the ballot, which I believe counts for something, Tom.
The last 2 elections, I was first on the ballot. It guarantees about 1 to 2% of the vote.
Yeah. So the other 6 people have to start hitting the ground tomorrow morning, Shayna Barnes. Tomorrow morning, you start working, you start walking. Congratulations on an apparent top 8 finish, and you start working tomorrow morning. That's what the other 6 have to do, along with Councilor Sullivan and Stewart.
Right. That lets us know what's what, and I want to congratulate Shayna, who is here at the moment, and the others that have won at this point. But a lot of people don't understand. This is like any other races out there. You have your trial races to get into the final.
Yes.
Now we're going into the finals to see who's going to be whom, and you still need to go out and vote in November, okay? And for those that aren't registered, we need to get them registered to go out and vote. But we have to improve on these numbers that we have.
And Nicholas Fernandez, who was here, and the other folks who did not finish tonight, they should be congratulated for taking the chance, putting their name on the ballot. It's a very difficult thing to do, and it's a scary thing when you go into a ballot box and you see your name on the ballot and realize the responsibility that if elected you have to do. So they had to be congratulated and commended for their courage in putting their name on the ballot.
Right, and this is just the first time out for most of them. They're not really well known around the city. So again, to have them come out, they have 15 people this time. It was 11-1, but that went by 4 more. So it's still the number 1 at this point. And that is good to finally see a large number. We want to get to the point that there are no seats that are uncontested, that everybody should have somebody running against them in an election. And that's what really where we should be at this point in time. So I can turn it back over to the main group and back to you, Mark.
Okay, thank you. We are joined here in studio at this point in time by one of the finalists for the next round. We have Shayna Barnes, who apparently is 5th.
Yes.
Congratulations, Shayna.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
What did you find out there today? It was quite the you've done this before, not for yourself.
Right.
You've been involved with Congressman Lynch's campaigns and other campaigns over the course of time.
Right.
This time it's for you.
Yeah, it was definitely a different road. Being involved in other campaigns, as you said, it's kind of on the outskirts. And this time being the candidate and being intimately involved in the day-to-day workings of how to make a campaign work, what things work, what things don't work, and learning that. And I'm extremely pleased on how we did. My committee, they're excellent, excellent, excellent. I couldn't ask for better people to be by my side for this, and we are ready to go forward in November.
What do you want to say to the voters of Brockton at this point in time on a preliminary election night?
I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you for voting for me. Thank you for putting your preliminary trust in me. I will anticipate that I will continue to gain your trust as we go forward. I ask that you continue to be engaged in the process. I ask that you go forward in November. I ask that you also vote for me. We will go from 8 that we have now down to 4. And I will just say that you can give any of your 3 other votes to any of the other gentlemen that will be with me in this race. But I ask that you save 1 from me. Thank you.
Great. We are at the bottom of the hour. You're listening to 1460 WXBR Live election coverage in the city of Brockton, along with television with Brockton Community Access. Mark Lindy, General Manager, at the helm as well. And the results have come in. I suppose at some point we should repeat them quickly.
Yes, if we have any of the results that we can put up on the screen, yes. I'd love to, if possible, I'd love to have mayor's results. Whatever you give me, I'll run down. Perfect, thank you. Ask and you shall receive. Shayna Barnes is leaving to go back and celebrate her victory with her supporters, and we're glad she took the time to stop down the studio. Have a lot of people here waiting to talk to us. Let's look at the mayor's race. We do have some reaction coming here shortly via recording from Bill Carpenter and hopefully Mayor Balzotti as well. Bill Carpenter in the mayor's race, 3,035. Christopher McMillan, 1,355. Linda Balzotti, 3,853. Ron Matta, 463. So the 2 contestants in this race are Mayor Balzotti and Bill Carpenter, or Linda Balzotti. Mayor Linda Balzotti. In the Councillor-At-Large race, again, hard one to wrap your hands around, but we're getting there. We're going to figure it out before the end of the night, who's who. We have Craig Pina with 1,578 votes. Paul Beckner, 1,264 votes. Shayna Barnes, 1,505. Jim Daly, 1,235. Elliot Ed Miller, 444. Next up, Patrick Quinn, 1,081. Robert Sullivan, 4,320. Nicholas Fernandez, 932. Moses Rodriguez, 1,828. Gary Keith Sr., 787. Going forward from that, the next number after that, Gary Keith Sr., would be I need the results to change on the screen. Don Carr, 899. Jay Stewart, 3,848. Stephen Foote, 934. Jacob Taggart, 903. And Anthony Joseph Donegan Jr., 1,161. We are going to go over to the other set where we have Ozzie Jordan with Tom Kennedy. And Ozzie, take it away and welcome Senator Kennedy.
Senator Kennedy, welcome. I don't know if you've seen the numbers so far this evening.
I have. I've seen them on the screen here and outside in the lobby.
I need a technical fix here for the senator's mic, please.
His mic on. Tom's going to come over and work on the mic, and while we're doing that, come back to the set if we could. We'll run down a couple more numbers and get that mic fixed. If you could throw up the results in Ward 5 for City Councilor, I think that's what I saw next on the screen. Just pop them up on the screen for me and I'll go over them quickly. Ward 5 City Councilor, the two candidates in that race that'll be challenging each other for November are incumbent Dennis DiNapoli, 642, Ollie Spears, 400, Ann Beauregard, 277. And if you can just flip those numbers up there for me in the Ward 7 council race, we have Tim Sullivan topping the ticket, 437, Shirley Asack, 320, and just out of the running by about 44 votes is Richard Zaccaro at 276.
Okay, before we go any further, you did the numbers on the council at large. Let me just run through the names that have made it through.
Okay.
For the final 8. That would be Robert Sullivan, Jace Stewart, Moises Rodriguez, Craig Pina, Shana Marie Barnes, Paul Beckner, James Daly, and Anthony Donegan Jr. in that order.
And we had him up on the screen, so kudos to the crew for doing that. We're going to go back to the other set. We took care of the microphone issue, and we'll give it back to Ozzie and Senator Kennedy. Ozzie?
As was said earlier, when you have live TV, these are the things that we have to take care of. Senator, go ahead. You started talking about some of the results.
Well, I'm very pleased to see that the hard work of many of these campaigners has resulted in good numbers for them. 20% of the city's electorate turned out. That's not the best number, but it's certainly a respectable number for such a early election. We're off a week from the city of Boston, which is gaining much attention in the media. There are preliminaries next week. So Brockton, again, is a week early. November is always a fixed date. More people are cognizant of that date, and I'm sure we'll have a much higher number coming out in November.
Yeah, it was interesting. I noticed today with some of the announcements on TV that it was mostly the larger cities throughout the Commonwealth that were having, except for Boston, seem to be having their elections today. Cities that are about our size, Brockton size, the Springfields, the Lawrence, the Bedfords, those types of cities, Plymouth, etc. And you mentioned, because next week you have Boston, there's a lot more attention. Earlier we were talking about that 20% is just okay. You've been around for a while. Any suggestions on how to get some more of these folks out or how to get the word out, really? Because what I found today was there's a lot of individuals that didn't realize that today was election day.
Yeah, it's sad. It's sad. Again, the enterprise, which has a fair amount of coverage here in the city of Brockton, doesn't even properly announce that it's election day. It should be across the top of the banner of the paper. Voting day tomorrow. Please vote. Remember, it's election time. You can try. The radio is an excellent source of information. Unfortunately, it only reaches so much of an audience. The candidates themselves try very hard, but it's expensive at large to send out mailings saying election day is coming up next week. So it's a concerted effort by all parties involved to beat the drum and shake the bushes and try to get the word out as far and wide as you can. And it starts, I think, that someone mentioned civics in school. It's not such a focus any longer for the education. And that's unfortunate. If the children in school are reminded and instructed in the importance of election day, they come home and relate that to their parents, remind them of the upcoming preliminary election, and the numbers will be higher. But it's an ongoing effort, and I think if we continue to use our energies and our time, we'll have better results.
One of the things I've also done is to actually take children with me, my own, sometimes neighbors' children, to the polls. You can take somebody in, and that's the kind of thing that, again, helps to get people to see what's what. We had the two wards, Ward 5 and Ward 7. We have Ollie Spears and Dennis DiNapoli in 5, and Shirley Aziak and Tim Sullivan in 7. That's running room council. Do you have any comments on those two?
Well, obviously it's nice to see new faces coming on board and getting a very comfortable vote for the first time. The work is cut out for all 4 of them to get their message out and get their troops in order to come up for the November election. It will be a spirited campaign, I'm sure, and that's healthy for the electorate to be reminded of the importance of election and that the issues that are pertinent to today's citizenry is open and discussed.
Words of wisdom for those that made the effort that came out today, but unfortunately didn't make the finalists at this point.
Yeah. Well, it's hard. It's hard to break into politics when it's a large city of 100,000 population. It's expensive to do mailings, expensive to put out your flyers, to do lawn signs, to do advertisements. But it's a nice lesson in government, in democracy, and again, everyone is to be heartily congratulated for their desire to enter the field of politics and for their energy and their efforts. And I all deserve a collective tip of the hat from all of us.
All right, we go back to the main table again. Mark, I'll throw it back over to you.
Thank you both. We may come back to you in a little bit. We have some reaction from the candidates at this point. We sent Peter Zimbor over to Carpenter headquarters, which were at George's Cafe, and we're going to take a look at that. Just let me know when we're ready to go, and we'll spin back to the monitor and take a look. Okay, I guess we don't have the footage queued, so we're going to take a look at it in a minute. I guess we saw ourselves reappear on screen. That's the fun of live television. Everybody's joining us in the studio. We have a line outside the door for people to get on.
Can you charge them money?
No, we're a nonprofit, so I guess not. Right, Tom?
We are non-profit. That's right. Thank
Exactly.
you, Mark. Ron, you are a for-profit radio station. See, that's the difference.
Yeah, but we're partnering together,
Yes,
and
exactly.
I guess it's commercial-free, so he's not making any money anyway.
So we'll compromise and do it at a discount.
Okay, there you go.
We are commercial free. Just want to make that clear, sir.
So we have, we're going to take a look in a moment or two, footage with Bill Carpenter. We also sent Nui Rateau over to Linda Balzotti headquarters, which this time is at Sidelines. We'll get the chance to watch both of them. We'll bring some more candidates on. We have opposed, we have unopposed. Like I said, anybody and everybody is welcome over here to be on TV. Out in the waiting area, Paul Beckner's here, Gwen Knowles is here, Andy Robinson is here. I don't know who else is here. We still have Councilor Brophy waiting over in the corner.
Yeah.
He's getting ready to wave goodbye. But I got a comment back before on what was said earlier. Both he and Todd Petty, smiles on their faces, $1 million smiles, not a wrinkle in their forehead anymore. Tom got out before he turned gray, I think, at this point. And, if it were me, I'd have less hair. But, I'll never forget after the election when Jim Harrington was no longer mayor, I never saw him without
Yes,
worry
I'm very
lines.
happy.
Then I saw him at Thorny Lee, big smile on his face too. So,
Well, I think he just had a good game.
Well, that probably.
Yeah,
Plus the
it
food's
was
good
more
over
that,
there.
Yeah.
Not a bad place to go.
Sure about that.
So, while we're kind of stretching a little bit for time, Tom, any reaction that you might have to any of the numbers? I was surprised, actually, the one number I was surprised with was in Ward 7. I mean, 44 votes is close. The percentage wasn't, well, it was 30% for Shirley Asack, 26.5% for Dick Sicaro, and Dick Sicaro has worked at it for a while. He's run for office. We're going to take a look. Those are the numbers in the Ward 7 race. What we're doing is I guess we have the Carpenter tape ready at this point, Bill Carpenter tape, and we're going to take a look.
At the Mayor Belzotti reaction, I believe, first.
Okay, we're going to take a look at Mayor Belzotti.
Thanks, Mark, with Mayor Linda Belzotti. Did pretty well. I mean, you topped the tick. I mean, you got to be very excited.
Yes, I'm very happy. I'm very grateful to the residents that came out to vote to show their support. We still have some work to do. I told everybody they could get some sleep tonight, and tomorrow we're going to be right back out on the streets. But I am very, very thankful for to the residents for their support.
Talk about, I mean, all the people here, the supporters. It's got to be a very humbling feeling.
You know, it really is great. A lot of these people gave up days from work, took vacation days to do this, come out and support me, and I'm very, very grateful to them. It's really wonderful to have so many people who believe in you and who believe that you're doing the right thing, and I'm very, very thankful for that.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. Back to you, Mark.
Was over at the Belzotti headquarters. I thought we had the Carpenter tape, so forgive me. We have joining us here in studio at this point in time, Paul Beckner. Paul, welcome to Brockton Community Access and WXBR.
Thank you very much. It's very, very nice to be here on this election night.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. How do you feel?
It's exciting. I tried not to be too either way. You know, I didn't know how it was going to go. A lot of good candidates in the race, and you know, I tried to get the message out there. I think I did by my showing that I was going to be somebody that was different, somebody that was going to speak their mind and not be afraid to say the things that need to be said. And hopefully you'll hear more of that. I know you'll hear more of that in the days to come. Paul,
you're kind of shy, huh? You don't want to.
I think I'm
tell
a little,
people how it is.
I think I'm kind of shy.
I got to say, without getting into the details, I think you were very polite during the debate, and you did not say what a certain word meant. But I'm glad I didn't know what that word meant when I was doing. Ron and I kind of had a deadpan look on our face, but
I looked over and I saw that look. I saw
your big issue has been taxes.
Yes.
Okay, and are you
good
going to
reason.
continue that throughout this campaign?
Absolutely, and you know, there was one aspect that actually really struck me when during my fight against raising the tax rate, and this is when I sat down with the CFO, John Condon. He was nice enough to give me 3.5 hours of his valuable time, and during that time, I saw in the budget that there was plenty of money to forego a tax increase on the citizens and the businesses in this city. And it didn't need to happen. In fact, when I asked him if we could use some of the money that was over here in investments over here, the rainy day fund, the stabilization, emergency stabilization fund and so forth, he said we could, and that it wouldn't hurt our bond rating one bit. And unless we did it over and over year after year. And but he said one thing that was kind of disturbing to me, and that was that if they decided to forego a tax increase this year, that the tax people, meaning the BLT, the Brockton Owners for Limited Taxation, would expect it every year. I thought that was very disturbing. But you know, it is what it is, and we'll continue to fight. And I'm happy that the people put their faith in me, and thank you very much, each and every one of you, and I hope to fight together to help get Brockton back to where it once belonged, with you and with your help.
Any questions, Tom? Did you want to ask Paul anything or any additional comment?
Well, I get congratulations first of all. The real work begins. The gap between the positions is a close margin. So what do you plan to do in order to make sure you're in the top 4 rather than the top 8?
To make sure, I guess just to get my message out to as many people as possible. We're using social media, knocking doors, hitting breakfast spots. I hit a couple this morning even. Do whatever you can do, and word of mouth, and help, hopefully people will talk to one another and get the community involved, and decide that I'm going to talk to my friends, my family, and it's something that's going to spread. I think I have a unique message to bring to the city of Brockton, and I hope.
You have a unique sign.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
You know what? I got to say something about that sign. I actually thought, to be honest with you, that I know you want to stop tax hikes.
Correct.
But I thought when I saw the sign from a political one-on-one point of view, it said "Stop Paul Beckner."
Stop Paul Beckner.
I did. And you were the original owner, I think, of the yellow and black signs back a few years ago when you ran for another office, if I remember right.
I'm not sure I was original, but yeah, that was
before the
when I ran
PowerPoint
for
signs.
10 years ago when I ran for office in Ward 5. I used a bright yellow sign with my picture on it. I thought it was a lousy picture, but it was.
Well, that only funny, Ron. That only worked.
Leave it to him to figure that out.
That only worked for a couple of people. That worked pretty well for Todd Petty.
Yeah.
It worked pretty
He's a
good for
handsome
Mike
guy,
Brady.
Okay. I'm not sure I'm in that category with
Todd.
Todd.
Todd, you had that zing on the teeth. You know
perfect
that
teeth.
gum commercial.
Mine certainly aren't perfect,
Okay.
as you can see.
But congratulations, Paul.
Thank you very much.
We'll be jointly hosting some more debates so people can get the message out.
That would be wonderful. I wish the Brockton Enterprise, and I've been a little critical of them because of the lack of coverage. And I heard Tom Brophy earlier tonight, and I was very encouraged to hear him speak up about that, because I think what they did was a disservice to all the other candidates in this race by not covering one iota, one bit of the race. These people put their heart and soul into this, the Jacob Taggers, the Gary Keiths, the Nick Fernandezes, and the Steve Foots, and to get no coverage at all. I mean, there's really no excuse for that. And it's very discouraging and disheartening that the enterprise chose to take that route.
Well, I'm sure there'll be more attention on this. We were able to very happily partner with WXBR Radio. I think a lot of people kind of shied away from that Councillor-At-Large race because there were so many people. Logistically, we were trying to figure out
You think they would be drawn to it because there are so many people? It was a historic election. 15 people have never run for one office in this city in the history of Brockton. I thought that was fantastic. They should have had enormous coverage. And in a city like Brockton, which is, what I'm told, is supposed to be a city where the city council is slightly more powerful than the mayor, that they're the strongest legislative part of the city. For the council not to be given any coverage at all was totally, thank you to yourself and Ron and the developers here for giving us coverage, and the radio stations and the social media as well, because that's where we got our message out. And if we were relying on the newspaper solely, it would have been nothing. Okay, well, get ready for part 2. Thank you very much. I want to make one point. I want to say hello to Dick Sicaro. I'm very saddened. My excitement is tempered by the fact that a really good man wasn't put into the general election. A very smart man who could have been very helpful to this city. And I wish people had voted otherwise. But anyway, thank you for voting for me, and you'll hear more from me in the future.
Thank you, Paul. And we also are going to have other folks joining us in the studio. We will show you footage from Bill Carpenter soon. We're going to stay on the air as long as it takes to get everybody through the studio to continue any kind of comment. At this point in time, I'm going to actually kick it back to you, Ozzy, with Senator Kennedy for any additional comment that you want to make, and we'll bring some more folks on the set over here. So back to you, Ozzy.
Thank you. Senator Kennedy, you've been listening to what's been going on. Again, your thoughts. You've been around for a long time. You've been through a number of elections, and can you kind of give us a little thought on what you've seen this evening?
As has already been alluded to, you have folks who are entering the political arena for the first time. Their enthusiasm, the number of supporters that they have behind them are refreshing to the city. It shows that there's a widespread interest in government, and in those who want to serve in government. They deserve much credit for that. I hope they don't get disillusioned. Not everyone can win, and it's a big city to run in, and it's an expensive deal, but it's also educational for those who participate and for those who support the individual. So I think it's exciting for the media to follow, exciting for all of us to be sidelines and watch and encourage and support governmental action, and we'll see now what the next election turns out for a higher number of participants and a more solid vote for democracy in its fullest form.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Again, in the city, the official census is somewhere around in an even number, about 95,000. We know there's well over 100,000 that are living here in the city. We need to do a better job all the way around on getting all those people counted, getting more people registered. It's less than half of the individuals here in the city that are eligible to register are not registered at this point in time. So there's still a lot of work that we have to do out here. Again, everybody that's doing this, it's a volunteer basis, but it's what we believe as far as our democracy.
Yeah, exactly. In the old days, you could only register to vote by going down to City Hall between 8:30 and 4:30, and occasionally there'd be some night hours. But it's all opened up nicely for individuals to be able to register to vote by way of mail, to go to the library or many public facilities and pick up an application form. The absentee ballot system is improving all the time. I was a former chair of election laws in the Massachusetts General Court, and we're seriously considering revamping the absentee ballot process and the requirements therein. So we're opening up the availability for people to become voters and to have easy access to the polling place. Nothing is more precious than the power to vote. It's been fought for, blood has been shed and lives lost in order to keep this country free and a republic for the people, by the people, and with the people.
I agree with you 100%. I think a lot of people don't understand the difference between a democracy and a republic, which gives me an idea for a show one of these days, and maybe I'll have you on,
Sure.
and we can discuss that for people. But here again, as you mentioned, the people are fighting right this moment. Those folks we have overseas that are, taking care of business for the United States are shedding their blood right now for us, and your folks can't get out and vote. A simple thing to do. You have from 7 in the morning to 8 in the evening, and you can't spend 5 minutes. I don't think it was one poll today that it would have taken you more than 5 minutes to vote across the city.
Absolutely.
That's it's something they should be very proud to do. But we got to work on that and work on getting the word out and making sure that people know the day that the election's coming up. We have another one coming up in November, and we will do better to ensure that those that are registered know that that is a day to come out and vote.
Absolutely, yeah. Nothing is more precious. Nothing is more important. Government runs best when people participate, and politicians are accountable. We try our best, but we need a message to go out and the people to be responsive. It's the lifeblood of America.
I agree. Mark, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you both very much. We really appreciate Senator Kennedy being here, and a veteran of going all the way up from the Ward 2 Council to state representative and state senator, and I remember back when he was the ombudsman for Mayor Crosby. So thank you, Senator. Thank you, Ozzie. We are joined in studio at this point in time with a member of the Brockton School Committee. He's from Ward 2. Andy Robinson. He is being challenged in the November election, and I'm going to kick it to Tom Minicello, who's his colleague, to talk to him a little bit about his race and what he's seen out there today.
Well, Andy, it's been certainly a privilege serving with you on the school committee. You finished up your first term. How did you find your first 2 years on the committee, and did you find it worthwhile?
Yeah, certainly, worthwhile. Much more challenging, I think, than I could have anticipated it. You know, you get into this and you're kind of optimistic and you're hopeful, and you know, you do your best to prepare. And I feel like I did all those things, and then you kind of get there and the decisions are in front of you, and they're never as easy as maybe they appear. They feel like, but you do the hard work, and you, you know, you work along with your colleagues, and certainly I had, you know, great folks on the committee to kind of help me understand what it meant to be a part of the Brockton School Committee and what my responsibilities were, and I feel like I did my best to kind of fill those.
Well, I think you bring a unique perspective because you do have an education background. So in addition to doing your homework, I think you had a lot to offer. How do you think that aided you with respect to your position?
Yeah, I mean, I think it helped me a lot, at least. You know, so much of the information we read and we're given has to do with what happens at the school level and what happens in the classroom and the impact on certain decisions we make about funding on the classroom. And to be able to kind of have that perspective of having been in the classroom and understanding those impacts firsthand, you know, has been, in some cases, has made it more difficult to make decisions because we're oftentimes forced into some really difficult decisions, whether it's a tight budget year or whatever, and really fully understanding that a decision has to be made and that it's going to have an impact somewhere. Sometimes makes it harder knowing what it's going to mean for the teachers. But it certainly helps, and I think when I read things, I view them with a certain eye and I can bring a certain perspective to the debate that we have as colleagues that hopefully has been helpful for you guys as well as me.
Did you anticipate so many meetings? Because we do meet quite a bit in subcommittee, as Todd Petty alluded to earlier.
Yeah.
There's a lot with respect to subcommittee and
yeah, I'll tell you, you know, when I mentioned right off, you know, it's harder than I expected. I think that's one of the things that is that I didn't anticipate is how much of my time, you know, folks at home see our school committee meetings on television or they hear about them in announcements, but you know, subcommittee meetings before those meetings, subcommittee meetings in between meetings.
School events.
You start to think about, yeah, school events, community school events, open houses, PAC meetings, but then, you know, all of a sudden a collective bargaining session comes up and you're meeting once or twice a week for several months. You know, we had to hire a superintendent over our term or over this last term, hire a new principal over this last term. You know, it consumes a lot of your time. It takes you away from your family. You know, I don't have kids yet, but certainly most of our committee members do. And, you know, it takes a certain amount of understanding from those that we're connected to, our families, to allow us to have these opportunities.
I'm going to do something very quickly because I legally have to do this. You know, you're listening to WXPR 1460 Brockton, and it's toward the top of the hour, a little after, actually. Thank you for your indulgence.
My pleasure.
You. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
Now, amongst all those meetings and things, you have an election coming up. What do you plan to do? How do you plan to proceed?
Well, you know, certainly now that the primary's behind everybody, you know, I'm just looking forward to getting back out, knocking on doors, talking to voters, you know, discussing, you know, both things that we've been able to accomplish in the last 2 years, but also, you know, ideas for and challenges that we expect that are ahead. You know, I like this job and I like what it brings, and it's even more fun to have the opportunity to discuss it with my friends and neighbors in Ward 2.
Well, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks, Andy.
Yeah, thank you.
Ron?
Do we have a moment to run through the numbers for those that may just be joining us, no matter what they were doing this evening? Let's run it through.
Whichever numbers they want to put up on the screen, we'll take a look at whichever race we have in the control room.
Okay.
Let's look at the mayor's race. Go ahead,
Mayoral
Ron.
race, first place, Mayor Linda Balzotti, with 3,853 votes. Bill Carpenter with 3,035 votes. That's a 44 percentage to a 34 percentage. So Mayor Linda Balzotti and Bill Carpenter will be in the final for mayor. Chris McMillan was third with 15% of the vote at 1,355 votes. And Ronald Matter fourth with 463 votes, 5% of the votes. And Ward 5 City Councilor, Dennis DiNapoli was the top getter at 642 votes. That's about 48%. Ollie Spears goes through the finals with Councillor DiNapoli with 400 votes. That's 30%. And then Beauregard was third, not going to the final, and that was with 277 votes, 20%. Ward 7, City Councillor. The top vote getter was Timothy Sullivan with 437 votes. That's 42%. Shirley Asak with 30%, coming in at 320 votes. And not making the final, Richard Zaccaro with 276 votes, 26%. Councillor-at-Large, I will name who went through. Robert Sullivan was the top vote getter. Then Jace Stewart, Moises Rodriguez, Craig Pina, Shayna Barnes, Paul Beckner, James Daly, Anthony Donegan. In that order, they will be in the finals in November. We'll be hearing from all of them so that you again can make a better choice for November.
And I did want to just note for the record that I spoke to different people throughout this election. I invited folks that were challenged in this race to come on down. There were a few people that kind of decided that they were going to come down and help us, which is fine. But I think there was one person that, and I'll leave that person nameless, who's not too happy with me because that person is opposed in November, and I didn't think we were going down that path. So we're going to do debates and candidates forums, meet the candidates, different things like that, so everybody can get their word out. I think it's very important to educate folks. To the folk, I think it's we're hearing some audio here in the studio right now. I'm not sure where that's coming from, but I'm going to keep talking till I get a cue that we have that Carpenter tape. Ozzy, you're joining us on this set. Thank you for handling everybody so ably over there. 2 councilors at large leaving, and Senator Kennedy and folks like that.
Thank you. This reminds me of when I was young. Used to sit at Thanksgiving at the little table, and all of a sudden you end up at the big table. So here I am. Okay, had a couple things to comment about. I know folks that have looked around the city, they look at the population that we have here in Brockton, and folks always say, well, where are the folks of color? Well, look at this election, folks. Folks of color are here. We didn't have in the mayor's race this time, but we have had Jay Stewart run a couple times before, so that race has already been taken care of. We had 2 opposing ward councilors. We had Ollie Spears, who's going to be running in the finals in 1. We did not have somebody in 7, but out of the 2, 1 out of the 2, so that seems to fit. And then we had 15 councilors. And out of the 15 councilors, 1/3, 5 of them were folks of color. So I think folks are finally getting the message, come on out, jump in the water, it's warm, it's fine. And, you know, we'll probably see as a result of some of these folks that have ended up in the top 6, someone on the council, somebody brand new.
And I think the people that you have, you're going to see stay active. I think, like I said to some of the councilor-at-large candidates, everybody's going to be your best friend tomorrow. You're going to end up with, there are 7 people that didn't make it. People want their support. Just because you lost a race doesn't mean you don't have anything to contribute to the city. They're involved in other activities, and they're going to be looking to lick the wounds a little bit, but move forward.
Yeah, usually what happens is when you have from 15 down to the 6, all those folks that voted for those that did not win have to go someplace else. So here again, as was stated, tomorrow or no later than the next day, you'll find people knocking at your door saying, hey, come join me now. So it's a process that goes on and on and on. And as some people say, you end up today, you get out first thing tomorrow morning. So it's just an ongoing process. And even when you get in, you may have 1 day of rest, but you're starting to run for the next time that you have to run publicly for office.
Well, it's only 2 years, and that is not a long time.
No, it isn't.
And when you speak to any mayor in office, they always say, this is a little nuts here because I have to start running. I think about that almost as soon as I accept the chair for the first time. So it's, and there's been some conversation about that 2-year period, make it 3.
3 or 4, which it was at one point in time.
It'd have to be, if you're doing a 3-year, you're possibly talking charter change. All towns have 3-year terms. All boards and commissions, well, not all, most boards and commissions in Brockton's 3-year term. Every town around us, Whitman, Abington, Easton, they're 3-year terms. 2 years, you're running for re-election all the time. It just doesn't stop.
It's very expensive, too.
And
it's expensive to run an election.
you got 4 years for president, 6 years for United States senator. Some of the county commissioners' terms are 6 years. Our southeastern regional terms are 4 years. There's got to be some kind of a meeting of the mind someplace, because after a while, if you saw the numbers that came back for the special elections in terms of what the cities and towns were reimbursed, those are all tax dollars going to run elections, kind of, in a sense, ad nauseum. We've had more special elections than we know what to do with. And now you're going to start seeing, as soon as this race is done, you're already seeing the state races. You got candidates that are in offices, state treasurer, attorney general, that are going to go for other offices. Then there's going to be a scramble for their offices. Then the county people are going to move up, and so on and so forth. I do understand that we have a tape. We have Ward 5 candidate for City Council, Ollie Spears, that we're going to take a look at that tape and see what Ollie had to say. If you just count me down or cue me, we'll take a look at the monitor and see what we have.
I'm ready, I'm hungry, and we're going to get this seat. We're going to bring the seat back to the citizens of Ward 5. I'm going to make sure that I'm accessible, I'm going to make sure I'm accountable, and I'm going to work very, very hard for all the citizens of Ward 5. Ollie Spears, thanks for your vote. Remember, November 5th, we can make history and we can move Brockton forward. I need you. Thank you.
Okay. And we are back on TV. I guess that was quick for Ollie. Councillor Dennis DiNapoli, if he either wants to call in at 508-580-2228, or if he happens to be watching and he wants to stop down to the studio, we're staying on the air pretty close to 10:30. We had a technical difficulty with the actual audio for Bill Carpenter. We do want to run that. If Bill is watching, he's over at George's Cafe with all his supporters. He's certainly welcome to join us over here live on Brockton Community Access. We are going to attempt to get that tape on and plug it into the program, but we're crossing our fingers for capturing that, and I'll take some more reaction while we're looking for some time. We're live on the radio on WXBR AM 1460, and we are also live on Channel 12, the Brockton Government Access Channel, city channel for Brockton Community Access. Tom.
Well, like Ron said, the race is on. It's basically a fresh start now, starting tomorrow. There's work to be done. The gaps are certainly not insurmountable. We do have naturally two incumbent candidates with respect to Councillor-At-Large that came in very strong. That would be, Bob Sullivan and Jay Stewart. But the rest of the field, it's really going to be hard work. It's not an insurmountable gap for any of the people that followed behind. With respect to the mayor's race, again, it's going to be hard work. Whoever gets out there gets the vote. It's not an insurmountable race for either person. It's going to be who gets the message out, who gets the voters to show up, who works the hardest.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're going to be seeing 3 new councillors at least.
We're also going to see new people on the school committee as well.
True. Yeah, we have to. Yeah, we're going to be going there as well. There were no preliminaries involved there. But there'll be a lot to do for Mark and myself. We're going to need quite a bit of, what do you take to stay up?
Lots of coffee.
Okay.
I guess.
Black coffee, that's the law school trick. That's when I started drinking coffee, black.
So my advice to you, Ron, is to start drinking coffee heavily. I think it's interesting on the numbers. Ozzy, you were going to say something?
Yeah, we're talking a few things here, and we're doing some assumptions, but we're saying that the 2 councillors who are the incumbents are automatic. Well, not necessarily. I mean, it's
at least
we
3.
figure they should be in, okay? But if the folks of the 8 that are in the finals actually do really run a good race, we don't know what that piece, the final piece will be. Yes, I think a betting person, and we're not suggesting anybody does that, would say that those two would have a shoe-in. But we've got some good folks out here that if they get out and campaign hard and pick up maybe some of the other votes that the other folks that didn't make it, we don't know what the outcomes are going to be. So we don't want to make it look like this is an automatic, because it's still an election, it's still a race, and those folks that are out there just need to really do their best to get their people in.
Do you think there's some people that go into the voting booth in November and vote for one councillor at large, not understanding that they have a choice of four? Because you don't see that very frequently where you have that kind of a choice.
No, there's some other pieces, I won't go into it on how you can do things like that, but I don't think it's a one only. I think most people these days probably would vote for the four if they understand that. Yeah. But that's something that we have to do. I know I'm going to have John McGarry on, the head of our elections department, and we're going to talk about a few things again to try to make sure that people understand, for those that do receive or see the cable. Too bad we couldn't do that as a simulcast. That would be great. But it's getting the information out, and I just believe we're not reaching a number of the people in the city that need to be reached. And it's unfortunate that we can't or don't, but if for some reason, as I stated earlier, people today did not know today was election day. There's no excuse for that. There's no excuse that at our city level that we somehow don't get that information out across the city that people know. I know we all have tried, okay, but somehow we need to find some way in 2013 on how to get the majority of the city to know that there's an election going on.
What about a gigantic banner hanging from a telephone pole near Westgate Mall, another one on Main Street? I mean, just obvious stuff. I've seen Vote Today signs here and there, but not prominent enough.
Some cities do that. The one piece, and Mark, right after this, we have entryways into this city. We know what they are. There's only a few ways you can come into the city. There's no other way to come in unless you're going to parachute in, okay, or lay in a helicopter. But other than that, if you cover those ways, so if we put at those entrance points a banner, those sandwich signs, as they call them, boards, at least those that are traveling back and forth. I don't see us using the BAT system, where the buses go around the city, get into some of the neighborhoods, where again, on the side of those, there could be some information. I'm not sure about the taxis in the town, if that's something that could be done also. But there's got to be ways. There were ways years ago when the utilities, the electric, gas, and possibly, and not so much telephone these days, electric and gas, used to send something out in your bill, announcing certain things. Maybe we need to try to go back to things like that. At least more people would be communicated. The schools, for those that have children, you can send things home if they get home, and that's another problem.
They usually origami in the backpack.
Right. But anyway, Mark, you had something you wanted to bring up.
Well, I just want to let you know, I started my day teaching my class. It's a speech class at Massasoit. And I do have people in the class for Brockton. A couple of years back, I had a person who went and registered everyone in the class, convinced them of the importance of voting. There are some of my students that don't believe if they vote in a local election, like a Brockton election, that it matters. And I said, yes, it does. Why does it matter? If you rent an apartment and let's say your taxes do go up, your rent's going to go up. If you're voting in a state representative or a state race, the legislature sets your fees and your tuition. So don't think that you couldn't vote. My comment, and I put it up on my Facebook and on a post, if you don't vote, don't complain. I mean, 19.9%, certainly better than 2 years ago when the preliminary was 4%. Certainly better than the general. I think one of them was 13. Ward 5 had a slightly bigger turnout than that, 21.6%. Ward 7 had 18.9%. But if 20% votes, 80% doesn't vote. Right. You can fly a banner, you can hang flags, you can do whatever you want. Some people think this is silly. One of the ideas that I have, if you're going to have 9/11 and you're going to have a Patriot Day, maybe that can be Election Day. If you remember back when it originally happened, it was Election Day. There was a thought to shut down the election, and the then governor and the Secretary of State had a fight about it. The election kept on going. Congressman Lynch in Brockton was elected. Nobody shut down the election because people said that that's what they want. This city, if you look at some of these numbers, 44 votes in one race, 14 like Mike Brady was talking about. I know there were races with 6 votes in Ward 1, 6 votes in Ward 4, 1 vote for mayor. Back in 1981, that lasted for 6 months, and then it was the mayor stayed in office for 6 months. It went to court. Guess who won that? Paul Studensky. Guess why? One of the reasons he won also was his lawyer was Bill Galvin, who's the Secretary of the Commonwealth, who's now currently pondering his political future because of all the shifts. So at this point, we are waiting for some of that video. I still would like to look at those Councillor-At-Large numbers one more time. They keep, I think I know who's the top 8, but I want to look at it one more time. If we can put the numbers up on the screen for the Councillor-At-Large race, I'll just run them through one more time. And thank you to the staff and my wonderful crew here and volunteers helping with the show, behind the camera, in front of the camera, and WXBR for being such a great partner. Topping the Councillor-At-Large ticket, again, Councillor Robert Sullivan, 4,320 votes. Jay Stewart, incumbent Councillor-At-Large, 3,848 votes. I think I'm going to the eye doctor with you, Ron.
Yeah.
Can you help me a little bit?
With Moises?
Yeah.
Yes, he's got 1,828 votes. Craig Pina, 1,578. These are in order of how they finished, by the way. Shayna Barnes with 1,505. Paul Beckner, 1,264. James Daly, 1,235. Anthony Donegan, 1,161.
And Anthony Donegan, one of your colleagues, Tom, took a chance. He decided he was going to go 1 term on the school committee and then shoot right to Councillor-At-Large. He was successful. Jim Daly, who's been out of office for a couple of years, one of your former colleagues, decided to run again, go for it, and he came in 9th. They have to get up to the top 4, obviously, and I think the work certainly begins tomorrow. I mean, you can't take a day off, you can't go on vacation, you can't take a road trip anyplace. It's, what is it, 6 weeks or 7 weeks, something like that, maybe 6 and a half.
Right, yeah.
So you got to get out there and hit the pavement, and I just hope there are a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of community events, and one way to meet these people, some of the ways I met these people before I even knew they were going to be candidates or anything, they either appeared on a cable show here, they were out serving on a different community board, whether it be an appointed board or Boys and Girls Club. I met Jacob Tagger. He used to coach one of my kids back in the day. The only thing is, him and I have a joke. We were laughing about it the other day. The last time I saw Jacob when he was coaching my kids, he had hair. I didn't, but he did. And I didn't recognize him at first when I saw him, so that was kind of funny. I don't know.
I never understood the theory of kissing babies.
Well, you can't punch them, Ron, like on the campaign.
Well, I realize that, but I'm just saying that if I had a baby, an infant, I wouldn't want anybody kissing my baby. I wouldn't vote for them under the circumstances.
Well, funny you should say that. Last year at the Democratic breakfast, Larry and Peg Curtis have a really, really cute granddaughter named Kayleana, and I have a picture. I didn't use it for political purposes, but I took a picture with her anyway. I couldn't resist. Okay.
And you kissed the baby.
No, the baby. When I saw her, she's a very friendly kid. She kind of latched onto me, wouldn't let go.
Yeah.
Well, you just have that type of face.
I mean, to me, if you want my vote, change the baby.
There
you
talking.
go. Now you're talking.
Well,
about
when you
it.
have to deal with some of the stuff you have to deal with in government, it
It's
might be the same thing, right?
Same thing. It's good practice.
Okay, so we're still we're about 2 minutes away, just so you know. Trying to get off the air at about 10:30, maybe visit any of the successful candidates in any of their headquarters in Brockton, or maybe just go home and go to bed. I don't know.
That's a good question.
But we got about a few minutes. Any other thoughts or comments? School committee, Tom, you guys have more subcommittee meetings than any group I know. This city council Finance Committee, City Council, they have subcommittees of the council too. They attend the planning board and the zoning board and stuff like that. But you guys, how many subcommittees do you have at the schools?
Well, we have about 8 different subcommittees. I mean, and it depends on what issue comes up when those committees meet. But, you know, as Andy mentioned, you know, we had a superintendent search. We have negotiations coming up. You know, where the mayor does the negotiating on the city side, the school committee members do it on the school side. So, you know, we have the parental groups and school events, and there's a lot to it. I mean, so if someone doesn't do their homework and figure out what's really involved, they're going to be in for a surprise when they get elected. On the school side, with respect to the races, we have Ward 2, there's a race. Ward 3, there's a race. Ward 5, I think, didn't we say we have Gwen Knowles in studio?
Yes, well, I saw her. I'm not sure if she
Okay.
stayed. She might have gone to the celebration and apologized to her if she did.
And we have
Gwen-
Ward 7. So, I
Right.
mean, there's 4 seats that, one way or the other, there's going to be activity. You know, a couple of races and a couple of people going to be coming in unopposed.
3 of them are going to be new school committee members because the 3 members that were there either went on to run for other office or, all went.
Yeah, as we
went
know,
on to
in
run.
Ward 3, Anthony Donegan is our 8th top vote getter with Councillor-At-Large. Bill Carpenter is our, second runner-up with respect to the mayor's race. And Tim Sullivan in Ward 7 came in first with respect to, Councillor Ward 7. So, we have 3 people that have left the school committee, so to speak, officially in January, but...
Left voluntarily.
Left voluntarily, yeah. So there's going to be change, and it's going to be interesting. We have a new superintendent, so we have a lot of movement. However, it's good to report that things are moving steadily and moving in a positive fashion. So no matter what, the trains still run, the kids still go to school, and we have to step up to whatever issues come up, and we do.
Last question, and I'll let the others chime in as well. Nonpartisan election, okay? But from what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, right now you're the only Republican on the school committee, and correct?
Correct. I'm the only Republican sitting in any seat.
Okay, but Ray Henningsen in 7, who doesn't have a challenger.
Correct.
He is a Republican, and I believe Mark D'Agostino in 3.
Mark
as
D'Agostino
well,
and
but
Craig
he has
Pina.
a challenger.
Yeah, and
Craig
Craig Pina.
Pina for the council. So you could all of a sudden see, does that mean? I'm just curious. And again, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. We're talking taxes in this election. Taxes support the schools. Taxes support the city budget. What about fiscal conservatism? Does that?
Well, I think the taxpayers want people to be responsible with their money. Bottom line, I don't care if there's a D, an R, an I next to your name. I think that people demand that when it comes to their hard-earned dollars, that there is responsible government that is doing the right thing. So you can call it fiscal conservatism, but you want to make sure the money is well spent and it's going to benefit the taxpayers. That's all people, I think, want. I don't think in this city that anyone really cares one way or the other that there's an R or a D.
It was changed for a reason.
Just be an adult, do the right thing, and spend my money as I would want it spent. I mean, on the right issues and the right causes. I mean, we want safe schools, we want safe streets, we want services. We'd like our streets in a little better shape than what I think they are. I don't think anyone's happy with the condition of the streets in Brockton. Right. So, I mean, call it whatever you want, but I think taxpayers just want people to be responsible with their money.
Thanks, Tom. Now I understand that we have the reaction from Bill Carpenter headquarters. Sorry for the delay. Every once in a while, there's just a technical glitch that you can't help. So we're going to take a look at the footage, and we'll turn to the monitor, and then we'll sign off.
George's Cafe on BCA Brockton Community Access and the new AM 1460 WXPR. Peter Zimbor here with Bill Carpenter. And Bill, congratulations. You will be a part of the general election in your bid for mayor in November. This is your first time running for mayor. How do you feel at this juncture?
Peter, we're ecstatic with the results. We exceeded our expectations. We ran a strong second. We're clearly the alternative choice to the incumbent Mayor Balzotti. The mayor could only get 44% of the vote. She's a two-term incumbent that could not get 50% of the vote today. I've never run on a citywide ballot. So we're looking forward to the final. We're looking forward to a great campaign, and we think we're positioned and ready to win this thing.
When you take a look at how the candidates who will not be part of the general election fell out, Chris McMillan and Ron Matta, their votes have to go somewhere in November. Do you think that favors you?
Well, I think it's a different election in November because the turnout today, about 8,800. I expect the turnout in November will be double that. So I think what we're really competing for is all those voters who will be voting in November who did not vote today. But certainly, I'm going to reach out to the supporters of Chris McMillan and Ron Matta. I congratulate both of them. They both worked very hard. You have no idea how tough it is to run a citywide campaign until you do it. And so many people have worked so hard on my behalf. I congratulate them for what they did during the preliminary campaign. And certainly we're hoping that the majority of their votes, their folks voted against the mayor, and we hope that they'll join us in making a change in City Hall in November.
I know you have a lot of supporters to go speak to in a few moments, so I don't want to keep you too long. There's been probably more vocal opposition to you than any of the other candidates. Did that help or hurt you in this preliminary election?
I guess I'm a lightning rod, huh? I don't know. I guess I've always been a guy who's said what I think and never minced words, and I suppose to a certain extent that creates emotions with people. And I mean, clearly, Ed Byers has spent over $15,000 out of his own pocket in the preliminary election, all targeted towards me. And we've overcome that because we had a great day. And we're a close second against a two-term incumbent mayor, and now we get a chance. We're in the final dance, one-on-one, 7 weeks to the wire, and we're ready to go.
Now that it is you and Linda Balzotti, what issues do you think will separate you and her that will be a focal point of this general election?
Oh, I think the issues have become very clear already. Number one, change. A lot of people in this city want change, and we're offering change. It's crime and taxes. Whatever the other issues people think they may be, it's crime, particularly violent crime, and it's continuing to raise property taxes every year, and particularly when you raise property taxes and then give all that money away in pay raises. So I think folks are tired of having their property taxes and water bills automatically go up every year, and I think people are concerned about the future of this city. I've offered a 10-point plan to restore safe neighborhoods to the city of Brockton called Brockton Fights Back, and I'm looking forward to talking about that plan and how we'll clean up this city and make the neighborhood safe again over these next 7 weeks until November.
Any final words for our viewers on Brockton Community Access and our listeners on WXBR?
I just want to say, first of all, thank you very much to the over 3,000 people who came out and voted for me today. Thank you to the hundreds of volunteers that worked so hard for me the past few months and today. I'm truly excited with the results. I'm looking forward to a great campaign and a final election, and we're going to win this thing.
That's Bill Carpenter. We're coming to you from George's Cafe in Brockton, who will be a part of the general election against incumbent Mayor Linda Balzotti in November. Bill, thank you. Go talk to supporters. We'll send it back to Mark and the boys in the studio.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Bill, and thank you for your patience in waiting to see this this video from over at Bill Carpenter headquarters. We wanted to make sure we stayed on the air until you got to see both candidates for mayor. We were able to talk to many candidates out in the field today. We didn't get to everybody, but we will be putting everybody on TV. Final words, final thoughts over here, Ron. I know you got a time commitment.
Actually, we're going to sign off to our listening audience on the radio and on the internet across the world. 1460 WXBR will continue our coverage in the morning on the morning show, and then again on my program. This has been a commercial-free broadcast for us at WXBR. Proud to pair with BCA to make it a media event. And we sign off. Good night to our listeners on 1460 WXBR.
And we'll pick it up at this point and just wrap it up on Brockton Community Access. First of all, I want to thank all my staff and crew. The credits are rolling, so I'm not going to show Tom and Ozzy, but I want to thank them. I want to thank all the people. If I tried to name them all right now, I'd be in trouble. So for all of us here at Brockton Community Access, have a good evening, and we'll be back with more election coverage leading up to the general election on November 5th. Good night.